everybody. Okay, guys, if you can see me, you can just maybe put in a message so that I know for sure that you can see me. Yeah? Okay, excellent. Yes, hello. Hi, guys. Yes, I haven't done a lot of live streams in my time, so it's like just give us a little bit of time, okay, to get us set up, all right? Because then we're trying to get this all done up, and I know we're a little bit late, but if you can see me, just put a hello or something. I see one person has said hello, and hi Celine, it's good to see you again. Okay, great. So I just want to make sure, like, can everybody actually see my screen? Can everybody see my screen share? Okay, let me just see if I can get this done. Okay, because I'm like not the most. I'm not the most. Okay. So, okay, can you tell me if you can see my screen now? Okay, not just my face, but can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, now it's come up. Okay, great, great. Sorry, so it's like, here's the greatest irony, right? It's like, this supposed to be air era, and then like me is like, not the most tech savvy, yeah. Okay, great. So it's like while we wait for more people to come on, okay, so what you can do to help us out is that please let your friends, your family, your colleagues know that I'm doing this. So most of you watching this is not the first time that you are watching me on anything, especially when I talk about what's happening with the air era. And I just want to assure people, okay, just because I said this was an urgent live stream, it's urgent because then I needed to do it today. There are reasons why I want to speak to people today, but I just want to assure people that it's not that some terrible thing's going to happen tomorrow, okay? So that it's not for that reason that it is urgent live stream, but we are going to start very, very soon. So I know, like, I can see a lot of people like sort of streaming in here. Okay, so yeah, so guys, if you've been here before, okay, so I'm just gonna chat with you guys for a bit, okay, while we get a few like background things started. I know we are a bit behind time, but for the people who were here for my great reorder event, can you say TGR for the great reorder? Just say TGR so that I get a sense of how many people here actually have attended the great reorder, and you know what I've said over there. Just put TGR. If you basically got the recording, if you were not in the audience, that's fine. Just say TGR. Okay, so there's quite a number of people I see here. Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Yes. Okay, so the people who saw it online, you can just put TGR so that I get a good sense of are y'all like totally new, or is like this is the first time you're hearing this, okay? Yeah. So and which is why for the people who are very concerned about things like jobs, about things like businesses, honestly, if you've got colleagues who are also concerned about this, just maybe send the link on to some of your WhatsApp chats and things like that. If people are just sitting around after dinner not knowing what to do, just get them to come on here, because I promise you I will not waste their time. I really need to make sure that people are aware of what is actually happening here. Okay, so I'm just going to get started now. Okay, so there are a few things that I really want to address at this stage, right? Because the first one, the number one thing, is that people are reading the news nowadays. Whether you're reading on Channel News Asia on your phone, whether you're reading hard copy newspaper nowadays, and I think that there are some very essential questions that many people are not really knowing where or how to find the answers. And even if you are getting so-called answers on the internet, are you even aware of how are you going to process that information? And this is why one of the issues with the air era is that some people say, okay, does this mean that communication is a big thing in the air era? Like, of course, yes. But what's important also is that now you've got AI slop, you've got basically people putting all sorts of fake information. And even if the information is being put out there, it's like sometimes you know how when you have contradictory information coming from different sources, and it's hard to know whether or not are people trying to lie to you. Is it that this information it was accurate yesterday, but then today is not accurate anymore, then by the time you send to your friend, then it's no longer accurate? Or is it that this piece of information is being presented in a particular way that is not helpful for you to make decisions that are truly important to yourself? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off today's session by doing something a little bit slightly different from what I typically do, which is that I like each person to do a bit of assessment. Okay, so I'm going to do that by showing you this. Okay, so given that there's a lot of volatility, that things are uncertain, And right now we live in quite a low trust situation where it's like every time you hear something, you are just wondering, like, okay, is this a scam? Like, are people trying to lie? And you keep hearing the words unprecedented. And I don't know about you, but it's like this started coming out during COVID, and they say like, oh, this is an unprecedented situation. And right now, we are also getting unprecedented. And I don't know if you realize, every time there's a new war, when it became like the Russia went and invaded the Ukraine, and then they said it was an unprecedented situation. But you got to pause and think, is it really unprecedented? No leh. I mean, this idea of a country invading another country is actually not unprecedented. It may not be so common during the Earth era, but it certainly is not unprecedented. And in fact, when we talk about COVID as a disease sort of like spreading around and infecting a lot of people, and then they use the word unprecedented, and you realize that actually no, leh, it's actually not unprecedented, right? So which is why it's quite important to actually pause and really think through what is the real issue. And the reason why I'm making such a big fuss about things right now is that and why I needed to do this urgent live stream is because, to a large extent, I think a lot of people are not actually aware of what is the implications of what is actually happening in the world right now. And I think it's very easy for people to just hop on the MRT, go off to your jobs, and then come back and then tapao your dinner and things like that, and it just looks like business as usual. And I don't think most people are seeing what could potentially happen in the following weeks and in the following months, and by extension, the following years. And at the same time, it simply means that if your life and all the plans that you're making right now are pretty much the same as last month, especially those of you who are celebrating your Chinese New Year and before that was celebrating Christmas, if your plans as of now are still kind of the same as when you were doing CNY and Christmas, then consider that there is a huge possibility that you have not seen what the implications of what the world events have happened are. Okay, so the thing is, now I'm going to show you a list of types of people who are putting out information in the world right now. And I would like you to think for yourself, okay? And the more participative you all can be, the better, okay? Because I seldom do live streams. And if basically otherwise the chat can be a bit boring, right? So the thing is, let's be a bit more participative. So I would like you to rate from the scale of 1 to 5, from 1 being this is totally lousy and cannot trust, confirm scam, to 5 being okay, 5 star. These people are trustworthy, and every time they say something, you can believe what they say. Okay, so we're talking about trust and believability here. So I'm going to show you a list of types of people. But before you give your answer, okay, you all must be like more participative on, okay? Before you give your answer, I'll invite you to consider what information is their forecast based on. So that means if you have a certain group of people telling you that, oh, keep calm and carry on, that all your jobs are safe, that is like, yeah, well, maybe we're adjusting GDP. Okay, based on what information? Is it that they just, pull it out of the air? Or, and their information is based on how much data, where is the data coming from, okay? And the second is that to ask yourself, is there an agenda or certain type of outcome which governs why people say what they say? Do they say something because they are trying to bring about an outcome? Okay, so now we try this, okay? But let's start with the very first one, yeah? Let's start with economists. Okay, what do y'all think? Scale of 1 to 5. 1 being total scam, cannot believe, and 5 being like, okay, these people are trustworthy, we can believe them. Okay, so there's no correct or wrong answer. This is a matter of opinion. Y'all can just put on the group chat and see, like, what is the trust level? What do y'all think? 1 to 5. 1 is complete scam, 5 is can believe. Right? So of course, like I said, what you want to think about is, where is the economist getting this information from before they put the forecast, right? So what is the typical norm is that, so you might very well hear, and by the way, I have full respect for economists, but what I want to highlight here is the limitations here, okay? So if an economist says things like, oh, this is a how many year cycle, or typically if certain things happen, then yes, you can expect inflationary pressures, or like if certain things are not sorted out, then yes, we could see certain trends moving up for employment or trade or so on and so forth, right? Now, a lot of this information is based on history. And then the next question you need to ask is, how long is that history? So for example, if they say that, oh, typically in Q3 of the year, so then they are looking at last year, maybe the previous year, maybe the last 10 years, maybe the last 15 years. If you're lucky, they may look the last 20 years, for example. Or if, and especially if they use words like, oh, historically, when such things happen, find certain outcomes are going to come up. Now, usually the time period is, you'll find that it could be maybe a last 2 or 3 years, or we're looking at 20 years, right? So typically speaking, that's the case. And then the next question you got to ask is there a particular agenda, right? If an economist were to give certain types of forecasts. Now let's go on to the next one. Okay, so I see a lot of numbers there. Some people are totally distrustful. Some of you are like, one. It's like you really don't like economists, is it? Nobody put five, got a lot of people put one. So you think like they are scammers, is it? Okay, so how about another group of people? Okay, so this one are the career coaches, right? So people are concerned about where jobs are going to be. And naturally, of course, if you are very concerned about the potential retrenchments, and guys, I've been seeing clients nonstop during this period for obvious reasons. People are very concerned about the viability of their jobs. So the thing is, if you go to a career coach, especially one who is part of the company itself, especially you work for a very big company, then sometimes the typical information, and by the way, career coaches typically have your interests at heart. So they are trying to lead you to where your skills might be better used, and that they have certain information about where jobs might be more plentiful, for example. For the most part, most people don't become coaches because they're trying to screw you over, right? They become coaches because they're trying to help you. But the other thing that I would invite all of you to ask is that, now, what information is this forecast based on? So, for example, if they feel like, if they give out information like, okay, certain industries may be hiring more people, okay, maybe they have some information that there are a lot of vacancies available somewhere, or perhaps there are certain skills that you should go and learn because certain industries are growing. Okay, that sounds about correct, right? So what do you think? Career coaches can trust or not? Right? One being complete scam, and five being, okay, maybe these guys are all right. And also, you want to think about, is there an outcome or an agenda that the forecast is trying to bring? But at the same time, I also invite you to consider that for the most part, can the career coach tell you that, let's just say, if certain situations happen in the world, in between countries, will this particular job still be available? Now, let's be really fair here. Does the career coach know the answer? Probably not, because this thing has not happened in the last 20 years, hasn't happened in the last 30 years. And so therefore, perhaps if it was last year or the year before, then yeah, I guess this industry might be growing. But now with this situation, will it continue to grow? They question mark. You also question mark, right? So okay, so that's why. Yeah, I see somebody there asking if you can ask questions. You can ask, but I cannot guarantee that I will definitely read it because I have to look to the screen to see questions, so I might miss it. But if you find that there's something really burning, you can post it, and I will answer if it's relevant to today's talk. Okay, so that's my promise. You ask useful questions and it's relevant, I will, but I probably will not digress if you ask me some irrelevant thing. Okay. Now another one. This one easy. This one easy. Okay, everybody can't tell me politician. One being complete scam, right? And five being, okay, this one can believe, right? Maybe your favorite politician or something. So then another thing is like, what information is the forecast based on? So the other thing is, how current is the information? Now, ironically, I think the politicians have very current information. Then I think the second question is a bit more relevant, which is that, so is there an agenda? Like, so if they tell you that the forecast of certain industries or certain GDP will be X numbers, and it doesn't have to be your country politician. I'm talking about politicians in general. I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, I'm not talking about any particular country. Yeah, but in general, even if they have certain information, or perhaps they know that something is not going to play out very well, is it being told? Right? So are you being updated on those things? Is a question that I'm inviting everybody to practice some critical thinking. All right. So how about CEOs, right? When they tell you that, oh, don't worry, we are not intending to retrench this year. And just so we are clear, the people who were at the Great Reorder, you all remember, right? I talked about Salesforce. So apparently they had one CEO who said that, oh, we really think that customer service is very important. He said that one year, the very next year, he fired all his customer service people because he replaced them with automation. Right. So the thing is, he said that he care about customer service, and then now he made you talk to AI, right? So the thing is that, so for the CEOs, is like, yeah, their information is probably based on really, really good information, but also think about what is the outcome agenda. Now, guys, what am I doing here? What I'm trying to tell you is that as you are I'm using this particular slide to put everybody in the mindset to be able to question what information you are receiving, But I'm also asking you to question what information you are not receiving. Okay, everyone clear about what I'm trying to do here, right? So how about the tech professionals? When you got your Mark Zuckerberg, you've got your Sam Altmans, you've got people from Anthropic or whichever. So these are the tech CEOs who tell you things like, oh, by what year, then all these jobs are going to get replaced by AI. Now, is this really the case? Is their AI really so good? Or are they trying to jack up their stock price? Because that will answer the second question, which is what outcome or what agenda are you trying to bring about? So which is why um it's very hard. And now I want you to think of yourself as a mere mortal, like just a regular person, and how easy or difficult it is for a person to make a decision as to, okay, do I change job? Do I go into this particular business? Or is it okay for me to assume that this particular technology is going to be used in my industry and therefore I should go and train myself in it? But where are you getting this information from? Can believe or not? So, how about investors? And of course now is a very common thing, and the reason why investment gurus are so popular right now is because it makes sense, right? If you think that your job is not safe, your income is not safe, what does the average person do? They start following a lot of investment gurus, because the idea being is that, oh, then might as well faster go and invest, so that hopefully, now in the first place you probably were already attracted by it because the whole idea is to leave the job that you don't like, which is my other favorite topic, which is most people don't like their jobs anyway, right? And so the thing is, what people want to do is to invest, and then they think that they can replace their salary, and then after that you can basically ride the wave to wherever, right? But the reality is, this one is a very major one. I want you to pay attention, okay? When an investor tells you that, oh, historically, when this happens, then this particular stock or this particular asset class or this particular type of investment will rise or will fall, or they will tell you like, this is the signal to buy, this is the signal to sell. And I want you to think very critically about what information is this forecast based on. And when they use the word historically, when this thing happened, how far does that history go? Is it, oh, last year when gold went up, this happened? Or did they say that, oh, historically when Japan something something, or when the US something something, then therefore the price will go on this and that? Now, how long ago is this? Are we talking about 5 year history, 10-year history, 20-year history? And why I keep bringing up this history thing is because I would like you to think about, especially some of you have followed me for a while, is that when you look at a 20-year history, because the air era officially 100% began in 2020. So prior to 2020, the COVID year, we actually had Earth era plus air era combined together. For the people who have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll explain it later, right? But most of you probably heard me talk about this many times already. So if you are looking at the last 5, 10, 20 years, a lot of those historical things are correct. I'm not saying they are wrong. In fact, history has shown they are correct. But how many people here have realized that a lot of the rules changed after COVID? That a lot of the so-called historical things that are supposed to happen have not happened. And in fact, those of you who are actively following the news, you will realize that the words revise our forecast is one of the most common things that you keep hearing. You hear it from investment firms. You hear it from people who are trying to sell you an investment product. You hear it from politicians. You hear it from economists who said at the beginning that, oh, we project a how many percent, whatever. And then after that, they announce, then they got it wrong already, right? Then they have to now announce again that, oh, we will be announcing the revision of our forecast. What's the point of a forecast if you keep revising it? Right? So, and that is very, very important, right? So it's like, if you revise the forecast every quarter, then you might as well you don't forecast already, right? So, and then the other thing is also, is there an outcome or an agenda? Now, this is not true of every single investment guru, okay? So I want to be really clear here. So, like career coaches, most investment coaches are trying their best to teach you something that is going to be good for you. And I want to say that right from the start. But having said that, now have there been cases? So I use safe example. Okay, some of you remember that some years ago, very popular something called NFTs, right? And you know how they would launch an NFT and they would tell you that, oh, an NFT is the future of the world. That if you buy this digital pixelated picture, this image, right? Then if you buy it, then the price will go up. And of course, then everybody talked about it because the idea is you want more people to buy, because the more people buy, the more the price go up, right? And so when they tell you that, oh, historically something will go up or this is the future, then my question is, your information based on what? because on the year that they started launching NFTs, it doesn't have a 10-year history, it doesn't have a 15-year history. So your forecast is based on what, right? And also also, is there an agenda? And if there is, which means the more people believe means the more people buy, and therefore their price will double, triple, whatever. Then I would say there's a clear agenda and there's no history. So that means the forecast, then if you are rating at 5, so I hope you are still rating it, but if you're rating some of those, in those cases, if you're rating it 5, then maybe we are not very clever, right? So now I'm going to put the last one, and this one I got agenda, obviously, right? So the last one is the astrologer. Okay, so you can say I'm biased like because I'm the astrologer, right? So then I invite you to ask the exact same questions that I asked you to apply to everyone else, which is what information is your forecast based on? Then my answer would be planetary movements, which are objective. I didn't invent the planetary movement, it's there. And the planets move in a very predictable way. Okay. And if you ask me how long is your data, theoretically the data can run almost infinitely into the past, into history. But because I'm human and I got limited time, I can tell you that my history currently right now I've examined all the way up to about 2000 plus years, possibly up to 3000. So any kind of patterns that I tell you, when I use the word historically something has happened, I'm not looking at last year, I'm not looking at 5 years ago. I'm not looking at 20 years. I am looking at something like a 2000-year cycle. And when I tell you that history repeats itself, I mean it, guys. I mean that history does repeat itself. And there is a predictable way in which things happen. So, which means if you see COVID or you see like certain wars start to happen, certain politicians start to tell stories that sound a bit different from like 10, 20 years ago, then I'll tell you this is not new. We've seen this happen before, and don't believe them when they use the word unprecedented. And then another question you want to ask is, does the astrologer have an outcome or an agenda? Because let me tell you, it's not news flash. So if you actually believe what I'm telling you, here's the news flash. My portfolio doesn't double. My house doesn't suddenly become more valuable. And it's like, apart from the fact that, yeah, maybe you might share my video with like 10, 20 more people. But the thing is, apart from that, I really have nothing else to gain from you, quite honestly. So it's like, and why does my portfolio not suddenly jump by a lot? Because May doesn't have a portfolio, right? So the thing is, I have nothing to gain from that. And the only reason why I keep telling people this is because I'm one of the very few people who actually know how to read what the planets say, right? And if I don't see that the story is that great, and the only thing I'm doing right now is I'm just turning on my webcam so that I can come online and tell as many people as possible, so that in case some of those bullet points there, all those people are not giving you the accurate picture of what is actually happening. And if you find it that is potentially possible that maybe the astrologer is telling you the truth, then this webinar, well, it's not really a webinar, it's just a live stream, might be actually worth listening to. Okay, so please stick around. Okay, so I know most of you already know who I am, but for the people who don't know, just let me introduce myself. So I am not the typical, like I'm not the kind of person who went online and read a few websites then I own self learn astrology. I didn't. Yeah, so I've done this 20 years, and I'm probably the most established astrologer in Singapore, possibly in the region. I've been featured on many of these media features. Right now I've been on Rise Media, especially after I was apparently correct about COVID. I'll talk a bit more about that. I've been featured twice on the New York Times Style magazine, and I've been featured on AsiaOne.com, especially after the COVID stuff. I've spoken for lots of corporate organizations, Facebook before they become Meta, and also companies like Fortinet. This is a cybersecurity firm. I've spoken for watch companies like Rado, Omega, Shasia Lecout, right? So these are not low style watch companies. These are very reputable firms, and they brought in astrologers because they do have certain types of products like this clock that you see here, which actually does track certain sun and moon positions. And you actually do need an expert to come in and explain to people what exactly is that device measuring. So I'm not just a mystical, and I don't read tarot cards, and I don't read energies and whichever. I'm a very boring technical astrologer who actually tracks the mathematical placements of planets, and that they form a pattern which usually can inform us as to which part of humanity is going to get affected. And so far, it has been incredibly reliable for telling us what is to happen. So I've also spoken at organizations like Health Science Authority. I've spoken at E2I, the Employment Institute. Uh, and what you guys are probably the most interested in is a series of predictive events that I've been doing for the last 5 to 6 years. So for the people who have not heard this story, I'll tell it real quick, okay? So what actually happened was that back as far back as 2017, and this is the truth because some of you who are here were actually my students as far back as 2017. This is 3 years before COVID. And what happened was that I actually do a lot of my client consultations, and I always do a 2 year timeline for my clients. Now, a lot of them are business owners, which means these are not like lazy people. They are not trying to do bare minimum. These are go getters. And so when I do their timelines up to about 2 years in advance, I started to notice something very strange that in 2020, there is a patch of time where most of these guys are doing nothing. So at first, if I saw maybe two or three of them, maybe they're just lazy. Maybe they just don't feel like doing anything. They decide to go holiday. But a few of them in a row starts to be a bit funny. And after a while, I started to realize that lots and lots of people were essentially not doing very much during a particular period in 2020. And at first, I thought, okay, maybe it's a Singapore thing. Maybe for whatever reason, all the Singaporeans got very lazy in 2020 for whatever reason, right? And then I started to realize because my clients come from more places than Singapore, there are people who are based in other countries. And I realized they also had a patch of time where they were doing nothing. And so it started to dawn on me that maybe there is something happening in the world that is making people not be very active during a particular time in 2020. And which is why I started looking into mundane astrology. So that is the technical term for world astrology. And it's that kind of astrology that doesn't affect one or two people. And it's not based on your chart or my chart, but it's based on what is happening in the sky. So I started looking for patterns. And I did find a pattern which I'll show you later. Most of you who have followed me for a while, you know what is the pattern that I discovered. But so in order to test it, I started to extend the pattern back a few hundred years, and I realized that the pattern repeats itself. So I started doing thousands of years, and I realized that, oh, bloody hell, this thing repeats itself. And which is why once I saw that happening, I started studying history. So from an astrologer, I became a bit of a mini historian because I desperately needed to know what happened to humanity when this pattern happened a long time ago. Which is why, for those of you who have followed me for the last 5 to 6 years, most of my webinars are a little bit like a history lesson. Because if you don't understand history, how do you understand that history repeats itself? And I tell you, every time I go back into the history, I start shaking because it is exactly what is happening to us. And those of you who have followed me for the last 5 to 6 years, you remember when I first started talking about this, it was like a warning. Now it's like the things that I said was going to happen has started happening. Some of you have followed me as early as 2020 when I first began. And then I told you all that Hollywood was going to go down the drain, right? And at first, everyone thought it was like, oh, because it's COVID, then we cannot go to the cinema to watch movies. I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. Hollywood is going down the drain. The quality of the films will go down. Nobody good is going to join the filmmaking industry. Was I not correct? Right? And so the thing is, you start to see a lot of these themes start to happen, and there is a reason for it because it always happens in history. So what happened in 2019 was that in December, I saw that a lot of investment firms, they started putting their forecast because it was December, right? So everybody was predicting like a 5%, 6% growth or whichever for 2020. And I remember telling my team at the time that this is not going to happen. 2020 is going to be a crappy shit year. And the thing is, people don't know. So everybody is planning as if 2020 was going to be this amazing, wonderful year. And that's why I decided, no, cannot. Maybe the big firms won't listen to me because I'm an astrologer, and apparently astrologers are mumbo jumbo, right? So yeah, government is not going to listen. Big firms, big MNCs, they will never listen to an astrologer. But maybe my clients and my students might listen. And many of my clients and students, you are business owners. You are not stupid people. You are all professionals. You've had many years of education and experience. Maybe you might listen to an astrologer. So then I got my team to book me a auditorium. I sold tickets. And then this was the event that was dawn of the new millennium. And I remembered telling everybody that the world was going to shut down and that planes were not going to fly, and that there could be companies that will close down. And more than telling them that 2020 was going to be a crappy year, I also tried to tell my audience that the world is going to change drastically from 2020 onwards. And I need you all to understand that when I did this in January of 2020, nothing has happened yet. COVID didn't happen. And in fact, the world was still amazing. In fact, I did this particular event just 1 week before Chinese New Year. And can you imagine people are going, "Choi, Chinese New Year, then you can't tell us all this nonsense," right? Until it became really obvious by about February and March that the whole world was going to shut down. And then in April, it actually shut down. And guess why? This is why I ended up on all those media, because then people are like, "Oh my God, she predicted COVID." Now, here's the thing I want to be very clear. I did not predict COVID. So that means when I stood on this stage, I did not tell them that there was going to be an illness. I didn't. I just told them the world was going to shut down, right? What caused the shutdown? I also don't know. But I definitely knew that there was no activity. So I want to correct this. I did not predict COVID. I predicted that the world was going to shut down, and I was correct. Okay. So that was dawn of the new millennium. After that, for the next 5 years, I started doing online webinars, because then first there was shutdown. Then after that, we got social distancing, right? So it got a bit hard for me to do live events. So I didn't until last year. I went back into the live event. I went back to the same auditorium and I did the great reorder. And so many of you indicated just now that you either were there physically or you saw the online version. Okay, so for the people who are new to this, you have not heard from me before. I hope I've convinced you that I'm not some mumbo jumbo astrologer. I've done my work. I've had 20 years of experience, and there are people who lead organizations who do listen to me unofficially. Because then you cannot tell your board of directors that this astrologer woman says something, right? So I am the secret. I'm the secret advisor that you cannot tell people that you listen to me. Okay. So, but for the people who are totally new to astrology, what the hell is this thing, right? So what is astrology? Basic ones. This particular diagram that you see here, this GIF, basically has the sun and then all the planets around it. This is what we call the solar system. Now, this blue thing is Earth and it goes around the sun. This part is primary school science. Nobody should be confused now, right? So when I decide to pick somebody's birth chart, I may ask you for a birth date, a birth time, and a birth city. Now, when I do that, it's like I press the pause button. So whatever is the moment of your birth, I'll press the pause button and then it will produce a chart like this. And what this chart is, this circle thing, is basically a placement and a map of where everything was at the exact time of your birth. And what you've noticed here is I put my birth chart on, and unlike some certain schools or superstition who are very worried about putting up their birth information, I always put mine out first, so that basically there is nothing to worry about. Western astrology is not witchcraft or voodoo or whatever. It's simply a map of what is, and at least for each individual person, especially for those of you who have never come into contact with astrology before, it explains why some people are eloquent, why some people like me can talk for hours and hours on the internet, no need script man, right? So there are people who can do that, and there are people who over their dead body cannot do that. And then there are people who paint, there are people who know how to fix things, there are people who can be very quiet, but when they say something, it really means something, right? And some people are leaders, some people are followers, and so on and so forth. So the thing is, as the world starts to move away from just pure machines and going more into the air era where we actually care about things like personality, where people start asking you questions like, what do you bring to the table? And you realize how many people cannot answer such a simple question, which is, what do you bring to the table besides your very long CV, which no one cares about anymore? Because you try now, you take your CV, you go apply for a job, let's see what happens, right? So the thing is, when your CV doesn't count for anything anymore, then can you answer the question, what do you bring to the table? Okay, so this is the most common form of astrology that most of us know about, because we are all selfish and we are all self-centered. And when we think of astrology, all we care about is our own chart, right? Whether will my life be good or not? Will I gonna retrench or not? Is my family going to be okay or not? So I just want you to know that this is human nature, right? That we put our concerns first. But I also invite you, at least for the majority of today's webinar, if you might be able to put some of your self concerns aside. We will come back to self concerns later. But what I need you to do is to take a much more macro view, because what's going to happen in the air era is not you sway or you're in the wrong place, then you gonna retrench. It's not one or two people gonna retrench. You understand? We're talking about this is a sea change of what is happening in the world that you must understand. Otherwise, it's virtually impossible for you to make a decision for yourself that even makes sense in the medium or even in the long term. Okay, so let me explain a few things about how to use astrology. And you don't have to learn it, you don't have to know how to read it. Okay, but the thing is, so there are two ways of looking at astrology. One is external versus internal. So the external astrology deals with what is happening in the world, and this is the part which I usually do on my webinars, because you need to understand why is this AI thing suddenly exploding now. Because AI isn't new, by the way. It's been around since the 70s and the 80s. People have been playing around with automation and artificial intelligence for a very long time. Why now? Why is it exploding now? Right? And also, in terms of the way politics are changing so quickly, geopolitics, you need to understand that. So astrology can do that, but we can also do internal, which is where internal deals with things like their psychology. What makes people so afraid? And some of you have been following me for a long time as a predictive astrologer, but actually my background is in psychological astrologer as astrology. And very recently, I was with some of my students, and I know a lot of people express their fear that if they lose their job, their number one concern is with regard to the monetary things. And this is what I keep hearing from people in general, that I'm very worried that if I lose my job, if my business doesn't do well, we are going to have a monetary problem. And what I'm trying to explain to a lot of people is that to a large extent, the monetary issue is a solvable issue. Okay, and what I mean by that is that if why people worry about money is because you want to make sure you have a roof over your head, you want to make sure you have food on the table. So these are shelter and food problems are by definition solvable problems. Now let me tell you what is a deeper and the issue that I'm more worried about is an internal issue, because what happens when the world changes very quickly and the environment change. So when I talk about environment change, I'm not just talking about jobs. So if you are used to going to work Monday to Friday and that you have all these to-do lists on your in front of you every day when you report for work, so there is that environment. And if the environment suddenly disappears, it is very destabilizing. And also, other types of environment could be is like there are places that you go, there are certain behaviors that you expect from the government, from companies, from the people that you hang out with. And if the environment should suddenly change, there is a destabilization where it makes people freeze up. It makes people not know what is going on. And the thing is, when you freeze, it means that suddenly your brain is not working to help you go and get the resources that you need. And that is a very important thing. And one big issue about the internal issue is that people need a place to belong in the world. And if that place that you belong can change very drastically in a very short time, then it becomes a psychological issue. So you see, when I work with people's astrology charts, I'm not going to be as superficial as, so how will make money or not, will win toto or not, or it's like, can you tell if what is my skills are, what is my weaknesses. I know everybody cares about the external, but let me tell you, the internal is far more important, because external issues easily solved. Now, another thing that I want people to think about is with regard to long term versus short term. So especially because I do predictive astrology, everybody wants to know, how 2026 my company will retrench or not? It's like, oh, my company will do very well because then we do crypto. Then maybe if this thing happen, then the crypto will go up or whichever, right? So you realize that a lot of these questions that deal with immediate ups and downs are very short term in nature. So yes, I mean, you can do something, you can absolutely do something that makes like a bucket loads of money in the short term. But then what we are not realizing is that, okay, but is there a finite result that comes out of this? And are people actually looking at, don't talk about 10, 20 years, it's like, are you even looking beyond 4 months? So yeah, sure, you can do something that makes you money in 4 months, but the thing is, have you considered that will this particular resource be available to you next year and the year after? And so the thing is, this is comes back to the internal portion, which is that why so many people are so destabilized nowadays. when I say it's destabilized, I don't mean that you are like barking mad, but it's that there's a very deep sense of insecurity that so many people are dealing with right now. It's because whatever it is that you're doing right now in your career, with your family, there isn't that sense that it is going to last a long time. And that becomes a problem because then when you think of the word investment, and the word investment is not just what you're buying in your portfolio. Investment can be investment of time, of energy, of your money. And the thing is, if you're going to invest in learning a skill, for example, is this as simple as, oh, government gave you skills future, then you go attend one class for 2 weeks. And as if you go attend a class for 2 weeks, suddenly now can change industry. It doesn't make sense, guys. Nobody learns to go to a new industry in 2 weeks, especially if people of that particular industry are also losing their jobs. So what makes you think that if you are from another industry, you go and take a skills future for 2 weeks, suddenly now you can find job in the industry? It don't make sense, guys, right? So which is why when you think of an investment here, when you invest your time and your energy to go and learn something, to take on a project, I think it is human nature that people want to know what's the outcome that I'm going to get out of this. Is this going to last? Does it make sense that I'm going to spend my time and energy doing this right now? Right? And this is why this live stream is so important, because the thing is, if you're not thinking about all these things right now, and if your plans are the same as last month and the month before and the month before, it tells me, guys, that you don't understand what is happening right now. Okay, so let's think about where are most people right now. And I apologize if some of you are not in this space, right? Because I have to make some assumptions here about where people are. The nature of my work is such that I get to talk to lots and lots of people, everything from C-suite people to regular people to students to people who just started work. I get to talk to a large number of people. Okay, and this is the aggregate of what I see. Okay, now most people right now, their idea is that they are investing to retire. So this kind of investment, sure, this can be your traditional portfolio investment, but at the same time, what I see as a pattern in general is that most people don't like their jobs. So if you think that the Earth era was so amazing and that, but me, I'm so sad that the Earth era is gone. Like how I wish that I can work forever. Then until I will collect my CPF, then I'll buy a house. Then my house will just keep appreciating. It's like on one hand, people they think they want that life because they don't like the fact that now jobs and like property prices and things like that are causing problems, right? So you don't like it is because right now it's unfamiliar to you. People want to go back to what is familiar. But the truth is, was the Earth era that amazing for you? You really love your job, is it? You want to do it for 40, 50 years, is it? That's not what I see. Most people, if they could somehow find a way to like make a living and have food on the table, and if they can do that for the rest of their life without doing this job, I tell you, most people will quit immediately. So the thing is, don't lie that you love your job. So the fact is that this idea of, if you think about how in the past 10, 15 years, passive income, retire early, this was like everybody's dream. Literally nobody loved their jobs. Right? So the thing is, if this is you, consider that maybe the Earth era wasn't so great. Okay, and also the other thing that people think is that the word retirement was their big holy grail, right? But the thing is it really retirement that people want? Because let me tell you, as a psychological astrologer, this is not true. Because I do have clients who are very wealthy, and they're wealthy enough to not have to work. And the funny thing is that some people who don't need the money, they still choose to work. And the people who decide not to work, I can tell you they're depressed. And some of you may have dealt with very wealthy people at the same time. And most of the people who hate their jobs, they don't believe that, because then they think that, "Oh yeah, if only I can don't work," right? So then to them, retirement is the most wonderful thing, can don't work. But what I don't think a lot of people realize is that when you keep trying to retire, what you want is not retirement, what you want is peace, right? What you didn't want, and what this definition of peace is that you don't have to do something that you don't want to do. It's not that people don't want to do things, it's that they don't want to be compelled to serve customers, to do tasks that they felt like they had to do because you have bills to pay. Okay, so that's why most people are just working for nothing else than to buy peace. Your holy grail is one day people are just going to leave me alone, right? So that they don't come and demand that I do things. And which is why, so basically what you have right now is a whole population that is super anxious about portfolios and market events. And guys, let me tell you one thing, okay? I am a fairly established astrologer. every time I go to an event, every time people know that I am an astrologer who's worth my chops, let me guarantee you what happens. People come, shake my hand, and ask me, "Hey, so May, how's the market? And the thing is, you see, if a person is truly confident about the markets, and I'll let y'all in on a secret, okay? The people who ask me this the most are the investment gurus that y'all follow, right? So it's like you go and follow investment gurus. Let me tell you, when they see me, they'll say, "Hey, May, how are the charts for this year? Go up or go down?" And I need you to understand the psychology of it, okay? Now, if you are truly confident about the market, you know exactly where it's going to go. You don't need to ask the astrologer this question. So the fact that I always get asked this question tells me A, nobody knows where the hell that market's going to go. Right? And the second is that there's anxiety. There is always anxiety about that. So it's like, so can you see this is a very nasty loop, isn't it? Like everybody is so obsessed about whether what stock is going up, whether the bullion is up or down. And at the end of the day, what they really, really want is not retirement. What they want is peace, right? Which and then the funny thing is you try to buy peace by investing, and then when you invest, then every day the thing goes up and down and it's volatile and it's a roller coaster and you get a heart attack. Then the irony is you have no peace, right? Because I've spoken to so many people who got burnt last year. Okay. So then you see what happens then when this anxiety rises. So by the way, my intention is to tell you a shitty story. And if you see yourself in this story, you should know exactly what I'm talking about. And so because people are so anxious about the portfolio and market events, and you follow all my predictions because you're hoping that I'll tell you when something is going to go up, when something's going to go down, right? So everybody is obsessed about looking for the right investment, that one day you will find this amazing thing that you're gonna buy and the price will just keep going up, and then you will feel damn good, and then you can quit your job, and then you can have people stop bothering you already, right? I'm correct, isn't it? So what everybody is trying to do is to try to outsmart, outthink, outpredict the market, whether you are an investor or whether you are trying to outpredict like which industry is going to hire people. Then wow, I'm very clever, I go and make sure I skills future before everyone else, right? So the thing is, and everybody is trying to find that correct answer. But can I pause here, guys, and let's have a real moment here, okay? Is there such a thing as a correct answer? Is there such a thing as, oh wow, go and buy silver will go up forever? And you'll realize anybody who go and invest got anything go up forever, meh? Right? And maybe when AI first came up, then you bought open AI shares, then you thought you were damn clever, right? Until now you realize that the Sora just died. Then now Microsoft go and divorce from OpenAI, then the shares house, yeah, and then they got no revenue on it. So the thing is, so is OpenAI the right investment? So you see, one of the problems with today's world is that by definition there will not be a right investment. There will not be a right answer. So sorry to disappoint anyone who follow me today thinking that I'm going to give investment tips about what to buy and what not to buy, because the fact is there such an answer? Because then something that was correct today is wrong tomorrow. Sometimes with the volatility you see nowadays, sometimes it's the correct answer in the morning, then by afternoon, by lunchtime, it's the wrong answer already. So the thing is, got such thing as correct answer or not? So why I'm showing you this, guys, is that the first thing that everybody needs to accept at this point is that there isn't a correct answer that lives in the world that we currently operate in. I'm going to repeat that again, okay? There isn't a correct answer that lives in the world that we live in right now. Because if you look at your world and it is filled with CPF contribution, with HDB prices, with the job market, with go to which company get what benefit, right? Or your kids go to university study, what is the correct answer? Now, everything that you see that is in this Earth era world that you live in, there isn't a correct answer there. Now, if anybody here wants to refute that, please feel free to shout at me on the chat right now. If you say, but no, May, I guarantee you there's something in the university that confirm if you study is the correct answer, I dare you to put it on the group chat now, right? Or you tell me that there's some kind of investment that you buy, confirm correct one, which crypto you should buy, you go and put on group chat right now. I dare you to put it, right? Because the fact is, there isn't a correct answer. Right? Is there a HDB that you buy, confirm the price will keep going up and you try it out, you go and put up, right? So the thing is, can we now everybody agree that there isn't an answer? At least not in the world that we live in now. Okay, so that, and the thing is, if you don't agree with this, if you say, May, you are wrong, and that is like confirm there's a correct answer there, then okay, be my guest. Then you can go and follow guru after guru trying to find the accurate guide. Because first you follow one person, then if the person correct it, Then you make money, then you follow him until he's wrong lah. Then you lost all the money that you made from following him. Then now you disappointed and resentful. Now go and find another one, right? So, and this is why, and I decide to do this live stream, and then after this is done, it will be available on YouTube. And the reason why I want this to be available forever is because I'm aware, guys, I'm more aware than anyone else that there's this whole trend of following May and her predictions now, right? Because the thing is, once I start to be correct about certain things, then people start to follow me. But I also know why. Now, if you are one of those people who have been following me because you are hoping to exploit what I'm saying, and that you can maybe ride the wave up, ride the wave down, or whatever it is that you do with investment. May is not an investor, by the way. So I have zero agenda for telling you this. My portfolio will not be affected because I have no portfolio. Okay. So the thing about the problem with chasing predictions is not just the fact that people are dumping whatever they have into what one guru says, whether that guru is me or someone else, right? And I want to cover this because I need to make this really clear. Because in recent weeks, I've had so many people come and ask me, hey, May, when's your next prediction webinar? And some of you have seen the video that I shot when I was talking about my Air Era Mastermind, where I literally said that there's no point coming to listen to yet another prediction, because frankly at this stage you just need to go and check your favorite news website, right? The prediction is happening right now. Do you really need me to repeat it again? Because no point, it's not a prediction if it's happening now, right? So the thing is that the problem is chasing predictions, whether you are chasing mine or some economist or like some crypto guy, is that yeah, every guru that you go to, the content is different. And then I start to get, sometimes I get people messaging me, it's like, hey May, you say this thing, then this crypto guy say something else, this property guy say something else. And then you ask me who is correct. Then I'm like, who is correct on which day of the week at what time? Right? Because then, there will be moments where that person is correct. What? This HDB in this estate, the price went up. Okay, then he's correct, right? But the thing is, but you see, May never said which month what happened. That's not what May said. What May is saying is that this is where humanity is going. Does it really matter that Monday it went up, Tuesday it went down, Thursday it went up? Sure. If you want to make $1,000 here, $2,000 there, sure. But that was not why I did predictions in the first place. In fact, I always have disclaimers that if you're ever using my predictions for investments, well, good luck to you, because that's not what this is for. Right? So what you see is that the only constant as of now is unpredictability. If you want to be like me and do prediction always correct, just keep predicting unpredictability, then you confirm correct one. Unprecedented confirm correct. Right? So the thing here is that which is kind of the point that I'm trying to tell you, is that what is definitely accurate, whether it's me or another guru, let me distill it down for you in case you are writing this down and that you actually want to know for sure what is accurate. Number one, jobs are not safe. Anybody who say jobs are not safe, I guarantee your prediction is correct, isn't it? But you see, the difference is May started saying that since 2017, okay? And also that companies are not safe. I don't care how big you are. You are Magnificent Seven on the New York Stock Exchange. I can tell you, even those guys are not safe. Perhaps they are potentially among the most unsafe when it comes to the entire world. And that also industries are not safe. A lot of the industries in the earth era, which we say are bread and butter, these people, come rain or shine, it was like steady industries, no up, no down, they will keep going because this is the backbone of our society. Even those industries are not safe right now. Let me put this to you, okay? It used to be that, for example, things like shipping, things like buying and selling commodities, because why? People got to eat, right? People need to eat rice, need to bring in fuel and whatever. This is the kind of industry where it's really hard to die, because then customer is always there, right? But you all know what's happening right now, isn't it? So basically the supply chains are so badly affected that, is there a possibility? So some of you here, the nature of your work means that you do know about shipping. Is there a possibility that shipping could come to a standstill in the world? Say yes or no on the group chat. Is May trying to scare people right now? Yes or no? Because let me tell you, I am trying to scare people. I really am trying to scare you. Yeah, usually I like, people accuse me of fear mongering. Today I fear mongering, I confirm, because I can tell you most people their eyes are not open. They are not seeing what is the problem here. Okay, and many of us are not aware because we walk around in our HDB estates and taking our MRTs, and you don't realize that containers are piling up in Singapore right now. And do you know why? It's because the ships cannot travel. And so the ship they're looking for car park lah, basically, right? So they need to park themselves somewhere, right? So when they park themselves here, the thing is now we got congestion at our ports already. This is the truth. You can go and check it out. I'm not lying to you. Right, so then basically we got all these containers, which if you think about it, but some of you might say, but maybe this is a temporary thing. This thing can clear up. Our government is very efficient. I agree. But the thing is, even with efficiency, and you can verify this, okay, is it possible that there are so many ships and so many containers until eventually say someone press the engine, now we can go back, right? You all remember what happened during COVID. You cannot just press and back to normal, because just to clear out the traffic jam of all the ships and all the containers, we could still get stuck for weeks, potentially months, right? And so when you think about how that is, then can you honestly say that any industry is safe? I was just speaking with a client yesterday who's from the semicon industry. And the thing is, even the staff within the company are not fully aware that the semicon industry is very, very at risk right now. Because again, I'm not an expert. I'm just quoting my research right now, that I understand that the gas helium is being stuck right now because it's not exiting the Gulf area where it needs to come out. So many things are going to be affected by the fact that helium is not available. But what I understand, again, I'm not expert. Anybody here who is, please enlighten us on the group chat. But my understanding is that when helium is not available, then semicon production is going to get affected. So my client yesterday works for the semicon industry, and I'm not sure that she and even her colleagues are even aware that there is a very real possibility that the production of semicon can simply come to zero. Because when you don't have the essential material, that means you cannot make things. And yes, you might have reserve supply. And for how long? For how long do you have the reserve supply? And even if the supply starts being available in the world, what do you think happens to the price of that material when it starts to get suddenly available but in small quantities, and suddenly the price goes up? And is every company going to be able to sustain that price? Right? Do people realize what is actually happening in the world right now? That means, guys, what I'm saying in very clear terms is that there are industries in the world that are right now teetering on the edge of potential collapse. Okay, and this is why it's so important to see this, because then if you are not paying attention and you just Monday to Friday go and take your MRT, you don't even realize what the impact is. And does this mean that potentially governments are not safe? And I'm not talking about the country where I live in, right? So are there countries where people got not enough food to eat? Are there countries, are you reading the newspapers and have you seen newspaper articles of certain countries where people go to the gas station and now they are punching each other because then everybody wants that last drop of petrol, because this is their livelihood. If the lorry doesn't move, people don't eat. And that's why they're willing to punch each other and kill each other for oil, right? So the thing is, do we see the implications here? And potentially, most of you live in the same country that I live in, but even if you're not, maybe you live in like a nice place where there's reserves and there's like people are still living a good life. That's not the case everywhere. And what this means is that when the working class is not doing that great, can you then be looking at a situation where even governments are not always safe? And this is where people need to understand that the house of cards is being attacked from the bottom right now. So this is not a high level thing that is like, oh, AI is going to be very clever and then it will now replace all the people who are white collar. Not necessarily. We are looking at a situation where the what is being attacked is right from the very bottom. Okay, and of course the bigger problem here is that retirement is more and more like a joke right now. Anybody who really thinks that you can somehow make this magical amount of money that is somehow going to buy the lifestyle that you want until the day you die, and assuming most of you here are not in your 70s and your 80s, which means you kind of have a long way to go before you die. The thing is, did you really think that there's going to be this magic amount that can somehow, and by the way, whatever your financial advisor calculated for you, which is X dollars that you need to retire, well, this hasn't taken into consideration that helium is stuck right now, that oil is stuck right now, fertilizers are stuck right now. So then you could be looking at prices that are double, triple, times four, times six. Did your financial advisors take into consideration that? And you know why they didn't? Because historically this has never happened before. So then when you listen to lots of a lot of advisors, always remember when they give you advice, your forecast is based on what? How long of the data is your forecast? Does it go back 2000 years? Because if it hasn't and it's based on the last 20, even 25 years, sorry, that one Earth era. That was when no blockage. So how are you going to calculate this? Okay, so there are other problems with chasing predictions because then you become frustrated and uncertain, vulnerable, even when you follow somebody who is ostensibly accurate. So then you want to follow advice, and what you're looking for is this 100% trust, which does not make sense right now, no matter who you follow, whether it's me or whoever. And then when it turns out wrong, then you get resentful. So usually when you think about this wrong advice, and I want you to pause and think about usually when the resentment is the highest, is when, if you're being honest with yourself, if you were trying to exploit that information. So that means exploiting could be maybe you thought you wanted to buy or sell something to make more money for yourself, and that's why you follow a guru. And if it turns out to be wrong, you're angry because then you lost money, right? But then the guru never said that this is for making money. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing that you want to think about is that the resentment comes out wrong when, for example, this true story, sometimes when people tell me, can you tell when I will lose my job? And then and I don't usually do this, like, like at least not on a prediction webinar. But let's just say the estimate was incorrect. But you see, I asked you all a really real question. Okay, what I've been very consistent on is that jobs are simply not safe. It is not new. I've been telling people don't be employee for very long already. Okay, and the thing is, does it really matter whether you lost your job this month, next quarter, or next year? Especially, what I've been consistent on is not the when you are going to lose your job. What I've been consistent on is that when you lose your job, because it's not if, it's a when you lose your job, that you're not going to get it back again. Full stop. I didn't say you're not going to get it back for another year, another 2 years, 3 years, because something is happening right now that is historically unprecedented in the Earth era. Because in the Earth era, if you lost your job, sometimes the cycles go up and down. And I've been to so many of these investment things, but they said, May, you are too pessimistic. It's like these things are like that. Markets will go up, it will come down, it will go up again. I keep getting told this. I'm like, yeah, in the Earth era. So your data, how long? 200 years, is it? Because if it's 200 years, I agree with you, I completely. But the thing is, what you have not taken into consideration is that we are moving from Earth to air era. This is an era change. This is not a market cycle. So the thing is, when you don't even know what you're looking at, so which means if you lose your job this time around, there's a good chance you will never get it back. And people think like, is it AI? But no, the AI is lousy. But then after a while, when they realize the AI is bad, they will hire us back. I'm like, yeah, I mean, if your company is still alive, lah. If the company is dead and gone, like means like there's just no way they can build a company back. How the hell are you going to get a job back? So, and then the thing about chasing predictions is that even if it's correct, some people, I have a few people who are very supportive of me, and I thank you very much. But if you go around telling people that what May is always correct, she said this thing will happen on this date, it really happened, then even if she's correct, and maybe I was correct like 7 times in a row, 8 times in a row, it's like going to the casino and like betting on the thing, right? And then, but the thing is, you're still insecure, you're still uncertain, and you're still vulnerable because number one, you're dependent on like, hey, when's your next prediction webinar? Then if I stop there, how, right? That's the first thing. And also, you start to wonder whether the good times will end because then you become dependent on the correct predictions. And guys, that's not the purpose of me doing these predictions. I'm trying to make people independent, okay? So then you keep asking yourself, is it time to whatever it is that you're doing? Is it time to stop? Is it time to exit? Is it time to find the next shiny thing? And guys, no wonder everybody is so tired. And no wonder everybody has got all these mental health issues now already, right? And which is why am I saying all these, guys? Because what I'm trying to get people to think about, and why is it that when you all look at May on videos and stuff, right? I'm only agitated when I get so angry all these people are not listening, right? But then you see May is very calm, more or less. Like those of you who met me in person, right? I'm not anxious or whatever. And the reason is because you need to be able to see you are anxious. You see all these PowerPoints like but you're anxious when you keep looking on day to day. You're anxious when you're only looking at 2 months, 3 weeks, 4 months. Of course you're anxious because even if you plan 4 months in advance, but then you cannot see the future beyond 6 months, of course you're panicking. right? Because you're not at the end of your life and you still got a long way to go. So you cannot be thinking in 6 months. Am I getting through to you or not? So that means at this stage, when you realize if you've been following my predictions, you know that everything I predict is correct already, right? So when I tell you the Earth era is going to collapse, like like I've been saying this louder and louder as the years go by. I used to be quite loud already, but then I had to be a bit scared because then everyone said I fear mongering. Like now I really fear mongering. Huh? So the thing is, the Earth era will and it definitely will collapse. And even for me, it's like that all the boxes have been ticking for the last 5 to 6 years, right? There's no way that I'm wrong already, guys, right? So which means now we use brain and think. That means whatever plan you have cannot be the plan that is the one that will work well in the Earth era. Okay, so let me repeat again. I'm sure all of you have some kind of long-term plan. Now, if your long-term plan looks like what would have been correct 15 years ago, that means your plan is not correct already because it is based on a world that will disappear. Okay, so that means it don't make sense. All right, so your plan needs to look very different and your plan needs to fit with the air era. Okay, so I understand that life is exhausting, it is unsafe, it is uncertain. Of course I understand, I saw this years ago. Okay, so which is why when we think of the question of value, and right now you realize I'm not using the word money, and I cannot even be bothered to use words like investment and portfolio. Even I myself, I don't participate, right? So which tells you that I don't believe in it because I already know that it's going to come to nothing. Okay. So which is why when we look at the word value, some of you here are my clients and students. In astrology, the concept of value is in the second house, the number two house. And everybody thinks that the second house is the money house. And of course, sometimes even I use that term because I need to get like mere mortals to understand what value is, right? But the thing is, when you think of value, it simply means it's something that people find of value. So, for example, many of you are spending what 2 hours listening to me talk today. So the fact is, look at the words. You are spending time to listen to me, which means that if what I'm saying to you right now has no value, even though I'm charging you absolutely $0 for this, even for the people who are watching this not live later, and I'm going to upload it for free on YouTube. So the thing is, does it mean that what I'm saying here has no value because we don't change hands, money don't change hands? Or is it that was it worth a couple of hours for you to actually listen to this very important message? Right? So guys, value is no longer connected to money anymore. So there must be a different way for us to think about value as we move from earth to air. And the reason why I keep hammering this in is because in the earth era, we only care about monetary value. And that's why value must come in something else after this. And the truth is, the more I see so many people running after investment portfolios, keep asking me what is the correct investment, what will rise in price, where you will earn an income, then I'm like, Choto mate, guys. Money is not the value anymore. Let me repeat. Money is no longer the value. And if everything that you're doing, if your long-term plan is all based on money, I need X dollars to retire. Guys, the money has been valueless for a very long time already. You know what the federal debt of the US is $40 trillion. All the money in the world cannot pay the $40 trillion. Your money has been valueless, $0 for very long already. Okay. So then here are some questions that I want you all to think about. Okay, real questions. If you want to write them down, you can. Okay. So how do I know? How do you know? How do you test yourself and assess whether or not do you even know what is your value or not? The non-monetary value. Okay. Now, if you cannot answer this question, why do I not know exactly what I want to do in my life? And guys, I've been an astrologer for 20 years. You know what everybody comes to me for, which is, May, can you tell from my chart or not? What am I supposed to do in my life? And I want each of you to seriously consider. I know many of you are my students and my clients, but the thing is, think about how the average person has zero idea what they actually want to do in their life. And I also want to go even further and explain here why I asked this question is because when you do not know what exactly you want to do in your life, but then if you are now in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Well, obviously you have been doing something in your life, isn't it? Now, I want you to consider when you do not know exactly what you want to do in your life, what you have been doing for the last 10, 20, 30 years is you simply do whatever makes money, lor. Right? Am I not correct? Because you go and do this whatever job you're doing, and the only reason why you do it is because they pay you at the end of the month. And the only reason why you're willing to do that is because you have no freaking idea what you want to do in your life. So then when you don't know, then you just go and do whatever makes money, oh, right? Isn't it? So now that's why. So I want you to pause and listen. I know this circular logic, okay? Maybe after dinner, people are not really thinking, but if you think about the fact that if all the things that you've been doing for the past 10, 20, 30 years, and the only reason you do it is because you do whatever makes money, then when that job potentially disappear, then now you freak out because then there's no more money. And then you realize that this is a circular logic. The only reason why you do it is because you want to make money. It's like, and the thing is, at the end of the day, the reason why you freak out is that when you take away the job and you take away the money, then you realize you got nothing left. And now, do you understand what I mean by I am a psychological astrologer? I know what kills people is the fact that they have no idea where to go and what they're going to do. It's not the money thing. You understand or not? It's that you don't even know whether you are a person of value or not. Now, another question I would like you to answer, okay? Why do I keep following leaders? And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with following a leader. If there's a project, there always has to be a leader. Someone must have a vision and say, okay, let's go and do this. But what I'm asking you here is that are you choosing your leaders according to means I know what I want to do in my life. So for example, if I want to go and build houses in the jungle, so I already decide I want to build house in the jungle. And then now I'm looking out for a leader who can lead a project. And then I will go and follow that leader. Now, what I want you to think about is that then you have chosen your leader. You understand? So the word leader is like a job description. So that means that person's job is to set the vision and allocate people their jobs and make sure that the job gets done. That's what a leader is supposed to do. But if you find yourself following leaders, and these leaders can be your boss, it can be your big, big, big boss, it can be your CEO, it can be your government, it can be some organization you join that it has a leader, it could be a church, it could be a temple or whatever. It's like, did you follow that leader out of choice? And that's the correct way. Means you already decided, you know exactly what you want to do in your life, and you want to participate. And there's a leader there that you respect and you follow that person. That's the healthy way. But is it that you do not know exactly what you want to do in your life and then you sort of float around like a feather in the wind, and then you see somebody who's strong, then you just follow that person hoping that they will tell you what to do, and maybe if I follow you I won't die. So then it's like what I'm trying to get here is that why people feel frustrated and vulnerable and insecure is because you have not given thought as to what exactly you want to do with your life. It's very, very important that I need to tell you this right now because, guys, you're got to choose now, right? Because if you're being really honest, for so many people who are employees right now, is that if you have worked all this time to earn that money, nothing wrong with that. You were trying to look after your family. But the thing is, if you didn't choose what you do, and you just follow a company hoping that I don't know lah, the boss will tell me what to do, then I got to do list, then I just go and do, which tells me you have zero idea what you want to do at all. So whatever they tell you, you just do, right? And then what happens? So now you think about it. What happens if I take your boss away? And then Monday you wake up, you got nothing on your to-do list. Then because the next day you got no more boss also, right? So then Tuesday also got nothing on your to-do list. Then Wednesday also don't have. And people think that they will freak out because they have no money to buy food. I tell you, you'll freak out because you got nothing on your to-do list. Because you do not have the ability to come up with your own to-do list. And that is the biggest thing that will break the human population faster than starvation will. Okay? So then another thing is that is your value. And a lot of times when I ask people this question, they tell me what their net worth is. Then they tell me what property they own, how many car they own, how their investment portfolio like worth how much. I'm like, bro, you did not understand my question, right? When I asked you for your value, I didn't ask how big is your portfolio. So is your value 100% based on money? So I want you to think about that. So how to know whether your value is 100% based on money? Then I invite you to remove your job, remove your property, your portfolio, your car, your whatever, what case of what fine wines that you invested in or some gemstone thing that you bought, minus all those things. If I minus all those things, how much are you worth? right? And if you cannot tell me what your value is apart from all those like ling ling long long, right? Then I can tell you, I'm not really sure you know what your value is. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying all of that, okay, so I know people who have followed my webinars for a long time. You've seen these slides before, and this group of slides I took from my great reorder. Okay, so for the people who have heard me talk about this earth to air era thing for a long time, sorry, you just sit through this. Okay, but I will describe it in a way, I promise, that feels more relevant to us right now. Okay, and I need to explain this because many people are listening to this for the very first time, and it means that if I don't explain what this earth to air thing, then it sounds like I'm talking shit, right? Okay, so the first thing here is that now in 2020, the planets Jupiter and Saturn met in the sky. And every time they meet, there's a sign. Okay, so in 2020, they met and the sign was Aquarius. Okay, so just take my word for it. So I put the star there because now we are 2026. So it's 6 years away. So that means this thing already happened like 6 years ago. Okay, so in 20 years' time from 2020, in the year 2040, the two planets will meet in the sky again, and this time around it will be in the sign of Libra. Now, if you see the color, this light blue color represents air signs. Okay, so what this means is that every time I talk about this era thing, it basically means that the conjunctions in the signs there is, it basically governs the energy of the world within that 20 years. Now, but if we go back in time, minus 20 years to the year 2000, it was in Taurus. And so this color, this olive color, is a earth color. So why I said that there was a shift between in 2020 when I began my webinars, I told everybody that the earth era is over and the air era has begun. This is what I'm talking about. Now, if I were to go even further back, 1981, hey, there was air. Then some people are confused. They were like, hey, but then May, I thought you said Earth era was before that. How come 1981 got air? Because there was a moment in time, I'm sure many of you remember, in 1981, the personal computer got got introduced into everyone's home. You go to Econ Minimart, the uncle doesn't write on the paper anymore. You go to the TCM place, they don't use abacus anymore. Now they use electronic calculators. And now they got point of sale system, beep, beep. Then after then you just pay whatever is on the screen, right? So the thing is, computers invaded our worlds just about 1981. Some people even remember when you were a teenager, did you have a Discman, right? Did you use ICQ? Did you use MIRC? And they were free. Well, not the Discman, but the IRC and ICQ, not only were they free, did you all remember? Please respond on the group chat who use ICQ and IRC. And all those oldies who use it, right? Because if you use it means you're not that young, huh? Now those who use it, can you respond on the group chat? Need to pay or free? If it's free, say free. Right? And it's free. And then another thing, got ads not? You go ICQ, then they got play some Amazon ad not? Don't have, right? It's free. It's completely free. And the thing is, it has to sit on somebody's server, right? And then you can text all your friends and talk all night and like can unlimited use. And it was free, guys. Free. And did you remember that there are all these websites like 9gag and I can't remember what the like newgrounds.com. Did you remember things like Napster, LimeWire? We were exchanging like movies and stuff. It was free. And nobody ever said, oh, you want to download, must pay money. Don't have. So in 1981 was the pure air era. So you had a lot of inventions at the time. It was very exciting. Biomedical inventions, tech inventions, and everybody was so excited. They were happy to share, and they share for free. Now, what happened in the year 2000? Because at that time, if you all recall, there was Friendster, then there was Facebook, and everybody loved it. We all joined, we add all our friends, right? And then around that time, Mark Zuckerberg was a very young man at the time, and he was so excited. Oh my God, we have millions and billions of users, right? And then people start asking the question around 2000. It's like, hey, bro, this thing can make money or not? Suddenly, the attention went back to money. People not interested in cool anymore. What they wanted was, can make money or not? And then, so he IPO'd, right? I think some of you remember, that was a crazy IPO. It was $500 a share at the time. And suddenly, the tech companies started squeezing money from everybody. Before that, only Bill Gates was doing it. Then after that, I tell you, they all jump on the bandwagon. Steve Jobs tried to sell you iPhone after that, right? And so the thing was, after that, tech was money, 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 until like, I don't know, like everybody got obsessed after that. And then there was the Bitcoin craze, there was the NFT craze, there was all sorts of insane crazes. And then the property price just kept going higher and higher and higher. So between 2000 and Year 2020, it was money, 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 money. So basically, everybody's still obsessed at this point. Now, the years before that was basically suddenly it was like earth, all before that, right? And of course, that's for a very long time, right? So if you trace all the way back, it's like 1800s. So some of the historians among us might remember this is when the Industrial Revolution began, right? And so that's of course when the factories came up, because last time they were all farms and everybody is a farmer. Don't believe me? You go and trace your own lineage lah. If you're Chinese, you trace back all the way to China. I guarantee you, your great 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 grandfather is a farmer, right? So basically, everybody just did that, and then after that, of course, the factories came up. So you didn't go to a tailor anymore. You basically went to a factory. They print t-shirts by the thousands, right? And so that was the Earth era where efficiency, productivity, and what else came up was this invention called education. And you think that it is normal to send your kids to school. Guys, it is not. Because if you go before 1800, the average person, don't say that you are from some rich landed family lah. Last time landed people, they actually don't need education because their kids don't need to work. They go education is just to show off and show people my kids are very clever, right? So but what actually happened in the Earth era was that you needed a job. Because why you need education is because you need to apply for a job. And the only reason why you have a job is because this invention came up, this thing called company. Because last time, when your great 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 grandfather was a farmer somewhere in a mountain in China, there was no such thing as company, right? So then they came up with this company with a factory, and then they had all these, they needed people to type on the typewriter and count all the things and like market and ship and all these things, right? And so now they had job vacancies and they needed people to queue up outside to get a job. And if you got a job, you got this thing called a job contract. And it told you from what hour to what hour you work every day. And then you get how many salary, you get how many off day, you get how many health benefit, right? And so why am I telling you this, guys? Because everything that you are so used to and you think it is your normal life and you think sending your kids to school is normal, it is not, because your history is not long enough. Right? If you're only looking at the last 10, 20 years, of course that is normal. But if you look beyond 200 years, everything that we're doing here is not normal. Eating is normal. Having sex is normal. Sleeping is normal. Traveling is normal because we have always done it. But getting a job is not normal. It's only in the Earth era people needed to get a job. So when the Earth era ends, guess what happens? You no longer need to get a job because why? The company doesn't exist, right? So which is why whatever starts with the Earth era ends with the Earth era if it doesn't belong as a universal thing. So music is universal. There has always been music in whatever shape or form, right? So cutting hair is normal. People cut hair like 5,000 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But my point here is that so there are universal things and there are things that are not. Getting a job is not. Right? And so now before in the fire era, so of course I extended before that. So another thing that is an Earth era thing, you might want to write this down, is something called democracy. Because in the fire era, everybody had a king or a queen. Like literally everybody. China also got king and queen. India got king and queen. All the European countries got king and queen. There are almost no exceptions. Like literally everyone had a king and queen. You all understand, right? And then when the Earth era happened, then around the late 1700s, USA said, hey, we don't want king anymore. So now we own self-govern. And then after that, France did the same thing. They chopped off the head of their king and they said, now we own self-govern. And after that, it became the brand new trend. Everybody wanted their king and queen off the table and then they own self-govern. So it worked for a long time until now, right? And I'm not sure you start to realize that elections in some countries a bit funny already. So basically, and now there are people basically saying, hey, we kind of like a dictator and we don't really like having democratic elections, you know? So the patterns start to change. Do you all see that? So basically, democracy, by the way, which you think is normal, is not normal because then that has not been the norm forever and ever because there have been other forms of governance and every time the era changed, the world changed, right? And so that's why I say if your long-term plan depends on, so now everybody go and think, you think about what your kids are doing. If your kids are 6 years old right now and you're saving up to send them to university when they're 18 years old, which is in 12 years time, I hate to say this, but I think your plan is, you might as well just tear up the plan already, right? And if you're looking at your retirement plan, and if you're 45 years old right now and you think that you're going to work for another 20 more years, I think you should tear up that plan right now, because look at my this thing here, no more earth era already. So that's a little bit like you planning to send your kids to university and you thinking you're going to work for another 20 years. It's like the guy here, right, at 1821 thinking that asking your kids to go and work for the queen is a good idea. When everybody is already going off to London to work in a factory, then you still got some old style idea about like sending your kids to work in the palace, you know, or that everybody is sending their kids to school, and then you are like the old style guy who say, no, no, we don't believe in education. Now you try lah. This is how to kill your children, right? So basically, I know it's hard for people here because my audience are not 15-year-olds. Because you know why 15-year-olds don't need to listen to me, because they already know already. And anybody here who got 15-year-old kids, trust me, your kids are listening to what Mason is saying, like, Papa, I've been trying to tell you for years, right? So the young people already know because they were born in the air era. So the rest of us, unfortunately, we were born in the earth era. And which means that we have this old style mindset. We are like the people who are born here, you know, like in the fire era. Then they think working for the queen is the best thing ever, until they didn't realize that the next world that's coming up is like no one gives a shit about the queen. Everybody wants a job in the biggest company possible. So the thing is, if here you still think that getting a degree is the most important things, if you still think that finding a job and climbing the corporate ladder is the most important thing, then you are the not very smart person who think that working for the queen is a great idea. Okay, then so the thing is, yeah, so that's the fire era, the earth era, and of course the air era. And the air era officially started in 1981 when computers showed up. And then there was an overlap between 1981 to the year 2020. So a 40-year period, which all of us lived through, I'm sure, where we had both the earth and the air era together. So there was technology, but there was also money. So Facebook is not just a connecting tool, it was a money-making tool at the same time. And if you had some kind of like, I don't know, some kind of software, accounting software, it was a digital tool, but it was something to make money from as well. So we kind of combine, right? And the thing is, right now, the earth era is gone. And that's why jobs are a problem. Education is a problem. At least the way we've done it for like getting that piece of paper you can like sort of wave around, no one cares about your degree anymore, right? So now this space here, where all these years are kind of important, right? So those are the years that we lived through. So now I'm just going to like just go back. Okay, so I wasn't kidding, guys, when I said I did thousands of years of calculation. Yeah, so if you got economist that doesn't agree with me, send them to me and I want to see his 2000-year calculation. Okay, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I took that dotted line thing of our time now, and then I brought it back about 800 years. Okay, so about 800 years ago, we had a similar earth to air. Can you see? It's the whole row of earth, then it moves to air, right? So the last time it was around that 1186, 1206, so 13th century, more or less. Okay, so let me show you why I'm so worried about the world we live in now and why I say history will repeat itself. So the 1186 to 1200, I going to put my dotted line here. Okay, so this is the last time we had earth to air. What happened in the world? Okay, first thing, I put the star there because that will give us a sense of aga, like where we are. Okay, which is about 6 years after the air era, like after the earth era is dead and gone. Okay, so let me tell you about the Song dynasty in China. So some of you, your history not that great, huh? So Song dynasty is one of the golden eras in China's history. So they were very rich. They are the ones who built the pagodas everywhere. The emperor is like super rich, and in many ways they are very similar to us. So they have a lot of these industries that are being set up. There's a lot of trade, and people are rich, so there's a lot of like this buying, selling, manufacturing, silk, and basically the agriculture was good. They had good weather. It's kind of like our life, you know. So it's like during our time, not a lot of like these crazy climate things, not that bad lah, you know. Everybody is rich and got food to eat one. So what happened was now historians agree that the Song dynasty golden age was somewhere in that middle yellow bullet point there, right? Somewhere in the middle of where the earth to air was changing sign. Which, if you think about it now, our golden age was maybe about 10-20 years ago. Everyone agree? Those of us old enough to remember, right? Now the feeling is we not very golden age already. There was once a time where healthcare was the best, where going holiday was the best, the technology was amazing, everyone was making money, life was great, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, right? So in about 200 years time, they will say that our golden age was like, 2010 2015 maybe, right? But not 2020, and then the thing is, but then you look at the next bullet point basket, the Song dynasty collapse. What the hell? It's like from golden age to collapse. This is history. I didn't make this up. Okay, you go and check Wikipedia. So then the Khmer Empire, this is where Cambodia is right now. So many of you know the Angkor Wat. So this was built during the golden the Earth era, the last Earth era, where they had money. So in many ways, the Khmer Empire is also very similar to our life nowadays, because again there was trade, and they had these big buildings, not exactly pagodas, but they were wonderful palaces. And then they had their golden age also during the period where earth to air was like intertwined. And then after that, the economic strains start to show up. They got supply chain problems. Then they start to fight war. And then they start to find that some of their businesses don't operate so well. And then somewhere around the time that the Song dynasty collapsed, the Khmer Empire also collapsed. What the hell? Right? And then the Holy Roman Empire also existed at the time. And I mean, they again another rich and very advanced, very sophisticated civilization. And then around the time that the air era started, the interregnum begins. And the word interregnum means that suddenly everybody say they are king. So that there are something like 7 or 8 people, they all say they are king, right? So then they fight until the last man standing is the king. So in the end, the Habsburgs won, and then they were the ones who took over, and basically the Holy Roman Empire was, gone case after that. So if you see where all the last bullet points were, is like, well, dang. So when the air era starts, you find that some of these dynasties, they just die off. And they were so amazing during the Earth era. They had money, they had military, they had healthcare, whatever. And now the question that you should be asking is, how long does it take from the time that the Earth era end until the Song dynasty collapse? So this one, not so scary yet. Some of you might be breathing a bit better to see that it was 53 years. And so some of you might be thinking, oh yeah, 53 years, I think I will not be alive by now. Then allow me to say you are quite a selfish person, okay? But my point here is that these 53 years, when we say collapse, can we all be very clear that we didn't just snap our fingers, then, on this particular day it collapsed. It's not like that. So these 53 years, in between, is a miserable time. Everyone understands. It's miserable because the jobs are gone. Then all the wonderful golden age, like the plentiful food and the good life and people going to the inn and sing song and dance and whatever, all that stuff is gone. So along the way, by the time it actually collapse means that when the Mongolians come, right, the people are so tired until they cannot fight already. It means they surrender and give up. So you got to think that when the Mongolians arrived, they didn't arrive at like, this thriving metropolis. By the time they arrive, people are hungry, tired, sick, dying, right? And this is how you win a war. So 53 years it took. Okay, so how about we go back even before that, minus another 800 years. By the way, this repeats every 800 years. So now we got bullet point, this dotted line here to again show you where the earth to air happened. Okay, now this one, my most famous example, is the Roman Empire. So I put the star there to show you about where we would be, which is about 6 years after the earth era ends. So Rome has all this other stuff. By the time they start to get into that transition period, their military dominance has started to fail. Because why? There's infighting, there's not enough resources, so on and so forth. And can I be very evil? I tell you that the US has been compared to the Roman Empire in many ways. But I know it's not usually marketed that way, but in the 1970s, they fought the Vietnam War. Let's just be clear, okay? They didn't win the Vietnam War. Let's be clear here. They didn't win, yeah. And then after that, they went to fight the Afghan War, right? Afghanistan, right? And let's be clear here. They didn't win the Afghan War. I know the propaganda says otherwise, but let's look at the facts. They didn't win. That's clear, right? And then now they go and fight Iran War, and then you decide whether they will win or not, okay? And so then Rome actually splits into two. And then Rome just keeps getting attacked by people, one after another. And then after that, fall of Rome. This is the official date that historians agree is the fall of Rome. And of course, then you should be asking this question of how long did it take from the time that the Earth era ended until the fall of Rome? Now, this one is a less encouraging number because the time period was 24 years. So let's just say that we have the same timeline. let's just say, okay? So for us, the Earth era ended in 2020, which means if you plus 24 years, we are looking at 2044. Just so we are clear, we are 2026 now. It's less than 20 years from now, which means most of us, you're going to be around to see the thing collapse, right? That's if our timeline is similar to the Roman Empire. And then now, can I fearmonger you further? Okay, last time in the Roman Empire, if you needed to know what happened, even the guy who ride the fastest horse, right? Something happens, say the thing collapse, and then you want to hear about it, and then by then you live like 100 kilometers away, right? It takes maybe a couple of days for the horse to ride 100 kilometers to inform you that so and so died. You know what I mean? Now, just so you know that when, like some years ago, when they stormed the Capitol in the US, there were quite a few of us were watching it live on live stream, just like the way you're watching me talk live on live stream right now. So just so we are very clear, right, things happen like a lot faster now than it happened in the Roman Empire. Like things happen in real time. Everyone clear, right? And then you remember what happened with COVID, right? And you know how it became a global pandemic? You know what the word global pandemic means? It means that every country got the pandemic, yeah? And you remember how the Wuhan virus came out in January, and by April, the whole world shut down. You all remember, right? So I can tell you that pandemics in the Roman Empire, they didn't spread in 4 months. Because like I said, the horse take a while to ride. And even then, the horse is not like 100,000 horse ride at the same time. It's like 3 horse ride at the same time, right? Now, by the way, cargo moves like by the millions of tons, and people travel through like all these like interlocking airports and whatever. It's like it is constantly moving. Our world moves at breakneck speed, just so everyone's clear, right? So that if something's going to collapse, you know how you can see in real time that something collapsed on. So what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that I think 24 years is a bit optimistic. It's very optimistic if you want to talk about how fast things actually move. Okay, so now, why? Okay, so that, just to continue my fear mongering, okay, because I think like I really really think that most people do not understand the implications of what you're seeing right now. Okay, so let's just say we take history as a lesson today. Everyone follow me for a quick history lesson, and if you've seen this before, bear with me. I promise you, it's relevant. 3 pictures here, one representing the Roman Empire, the one in the middle, Song Dynasty, and then the Khmer Empire, because the buildings are still there, which actually tells you something, because in the Earth era, by the way, one of the things that all the Earth eras are known for is buildings. And actually, if you think about it, in our Earth era, I can tell you we are fantastic at building buildings, right? If you've been to certain countries that have a history from like the fire era, yeah, there are, I mean, some nice palaces that you see in China and in Europe and whatever, they're from the fire era, right? But let's be honest here. Since the Earth era started, the Industrial Revolution, we have built everything from factories to water plants to petrochemical plants to entire cities with condos and HDBs and office buildings and skyscrapers and ferry terminals and blah 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 blah. We just do nothing but build, 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 because we got billions and billions of people filling the entire world, right? And just so you know, this happens in every Earth era. And in fact, these guys are so good at building that the Romans, their buildings still standing after 2,000, 3,000 years, still there. That's how good they are at building, right? And even the Song Dynasty and the Khmer Empire, Angkor Wat is still standing. And many of you have visited it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so the Earth era is really good at building buildings. And in a sense, we are the same. Now, I'm doing this to show you the similarities and how the history repeats itself. So it doesn't mean that the building was bad. It's just that the empire died, but the building is still there, right? So that doesn't mean just because your skyscraper is still there doesn't mean your country is still standing. Just saying. Okay, so now I these are AI generated pictures, forgive me, okay? So the thing is, why I put these pictures here is to show you what life was like in each of these empires. And this is probably a close approximation, and that's what their life is like. So there's a robust marketplace, and as you can see, there is wealth there, as in compared to people of other eras. They don't look like they are sick and tired and they've got all sorts of like crazy diseases. In fact, people are very economically driven. And what you also see is that there is a sense of bureaucracy. There is law and order. There are contracts and agreements that everybody shake hands and agree. And so there is general peace and calm, and it is that peace and calm that allows people to build businesses, build cities, and basically have that prosperity that all of us have enjoyed. In fact, the fact that we're all sitting here means that we actually got to see the end of the Earth era. We saw it to its end, which means that we saw what was possible with the Earth era that our great grandparents never saw. So, in a sense, I would say we are incredibly lucky to have seen what our Earth era was able to produce. And in fact, this other picture here also shows how money-faced the Earth era is. So basically, the Romans were like that too. There's a reason why they had the biggest trade network in the entire world at the time, because they damn good at making money lah, right? The same thing happened with the Song Dynasty as well. In fact, the Song Dynasty was so good at banking. So now you think that your banks are like so sophisticated and whatever. Now in their time, considering they had no internet and they had no like long distance phone call, they actually were able to come up with a very sophisticated lending system, right, where that there are bank notes that are being given to people because they travel along the Silk Road, and which means that you could take loans that could be honored like many thousands of hundreds of kilometers away. And so it meant that it made trade very easy, and it meant that the conversion from one civilization to another was very easy. And it's like basically all this sophistication of conversion and financial tools and whatever meant that basically in all these empires, all these people become multimillionaires, or the equivalent of multimillionaires that we have today in our society. And so what I'm trying to show you here is that they created a world where the vast majority of people were able to access goods and services just like us. Just like you can go downstairs to your Sheng Siong supermarket and you can buy products from Mexico, you can buy products from Iceland, you can buy products from Norwegian salmon. And the thing is, and this was possible also back in their day. This is the time where things like silk and all these wonderful things were traveling to Europe. And why am I showing you this, guys? Why the history lesson? Because I'm like, guys, these people are like us, exactly like us. And in no other era in human history do all these exact same characteristics show up. Only in Earth era. Okay, so which is why it's very important for us to see that these empires died. I just need to make it clear: the empires, they didn't make it, they are gone, they died. And so which means it's very important to ask, how in the world did they die? And are we seeing the same things happening in our world right now? So number one is that they lose wars. So they fight war and they lose, and then they died. That's as simple as that, right? So the Song Dynasty were conquered by the Mongolians, Genghis Khan. And then the Roman Empire were conquered by a large number of like all these small bands. They call them Vandals, they call them like little tribes. And in most cases, you would think that it is impossible because the Roman Empire was the Roman Empire. They were the strongest in everything, military, economics. And to say that a tiny little group of like hooligans and gangsters were going to go to Rome and somehow take over Rome is impossible. Nobody would have said it was possible during the Earth era until it actually happened. History is a fact, right? So basically, how to lose wars? Well, I mean, haven't you all noticed right now? Number one, I told you the US hasn't actually won a war in a very long time. In fact, ever since World War II, they haven't actually won an actual single war. And they won by dropping atomic bombs on Japan, right? So the reality is that, are they losing wars? Now, if you're reading the newspaper, this is, of course, this happened quite recently, right? So Iran is starting to gain a little bit of a foothold on the US. Now, I'm not saying that this will remain forever, but the fact is, will they lose wars? Okay, so how many people here think that you dare to say, go on the group chat and say, US confirm win? You go and say, like anybody dare to say? Because I tell you that track record isn't great. Tell you first. Okay, so the thing is, and if you lose wars, there are many ways to lose wars, guys. Losing a war can mean that you lose militarily, but I also want you to think, is it possible to win a war but then you still lose? Am I making sense? I'm making sense, right? Like you can win and then you say, yes, I'm the strongest guy. Then you realize that actually the devastation, and then you realize that your treasury got no money already. So okay lah, you win lah, but then the thing is you got no money already, Then all your people starving to death. So is there such a thing? Think about it. So what do we actually mean when we say somebody win or lose a war? Very important to think about, okay? So what do you win and what do you lose? Okay, so that means we can lose in multiple ways. Now, another problem with the Earth era is that technology and talent, they go where the money is. So I want you all to remember, like for example, 20, 30 years ago, if you knew that some kid was like a really top student, right? You know what happened? They go to law school, they go to medical school. Because it got somebody got a smart kid somewhere, then wow, this one going to be doctor. And that's when in our golden age, we had smart people become engineers. We had smart people become doctors because then they made healthcare better. They created great buildings, bridges, technologies that made our life wonderful during the golden era. But do you know what happened to smart kids nowadays? Where do they go? I tell you, they don't want to be doctor because long hours, then the money not worth it, then the prospects not worth it. You know where they go? They go into finance, right? They go and join private equity firms. They go and join tech companies where they create AI slop, right? So the thing is, why is it that they do that? It's because that's where the money is, ma. Remember, I said nobody loves their jobs anymore. They just go to whoever pays the most money, right? I told you the Earth era gets contaminated when everyone is just money obsessed. So the thing is, do the best people go to engineering now? They don't, because engineers, their life isn't great. And then, so the best people are not engineers. Doctors don't get the best. So how many people have noticed healthcare has gone down? Say yes on the group chat if you agree. Healthcare has gone down, not the same that it used to be, right? And how many people realize that, for example, things like bureaucracy, at one point, the smartest people in the world, in the country, they become politicians. Who remembers that there were people like Goh Keng Swee, people like Lee Kuan Yew, people like the best people, they actually go and govern the country. But then now you're not very sure that the best and the smartest people want to govern the country. It makes sense, right? So, and therefore recruiting certain types of talent become a bit harder. Because why? Then it's all down to who get paid the most. And then now it's about, oh, you want to attract the best people must pay more money. I remember a day when no, like that wasn't the case, right? So which is why once you start to see in every country right now in the Earth era, I would like you to assess not just your own country, but all countries. It's like, where do the smartest people go? If they all end up in the finance industry, where actually, if you think about it, if anybody here come put on the group chat, who here thinks that people who join the finance industry make the world a better place? They give you better healthcare. They tell you lah that they will create better hotels and stuff. Who realize that it's not better, it is more expensive. Right? So, like, do people in finance actually make the world a better place? I beg to differ. Like, I don't think so. Right? So the thing is, that's how your world goes to shits lah, basically. Okay. So anyway, so then you also see that empires start to fragment and there's a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment. And who remembers that during the golden age, 10, 15 years ago, it was really awesome. Like immigrants was like a great thing. And that everybody lauded this foreign exchange program. People wanted to go overseas to study. If you got a secondment, if you were stationed overseas, it was great. Like there was this exchange. Everybody wanted to share things. And then now it's like, okay, don't like immigrants really. Doesn't matter where you go, no one likes immigrants now, right? So the thing is that, so this becomes a real big issue. So countries get fragmented. So this is just one example. I'm not picking on Germany, but it's happening in like lots and lots of countries. Okay, so you start to see like a lot of these elections become very weird, mainly because it starts to, people are starting to question the system in terms of like, do election results, so this objectively, right, do election results always reflect the sentiment of the people necessarily? Because the point of a democratic elections is to reflect the sentiment, but does it necessarily do so? And that's why there are several countries in which people are making such questions, like especially if you talk about, say, in the US, where gerrymandering is a huge problem, right? And so it means that just because certain results come out, is it a result of like basically a manipulation of what's actually happening, or does this reflect what people actually want? So this is why the fragmentation will start to show up, and this is happening in multiple countries where you see very scary things like this picture over here, which is like East and West Germany they want completely different things. So now, do you have one country or do you have two countries? And who here thinks that if many countries start to show this kind of thing, then you start to get very funny conversations and you start to hear about people wanting to break away, because then what you want is not what I want, and then now we want to break up. Right? And who thinks it's possible, right? And it's not just one country, it's a lot of countries are seeing this kind of thing, isn't it? And so when that happens, does that mean that the world that you imagine, what you think of as Germany, might actually become East Germany and West Germany at some point, right? And like I said, multiple countries are facing this. So then you start to get empires basically start to split up. And when they split up, does it make them stronger or does that make them weaker? That's another question that you want to think about, right? So if they split up and they're stronger, that's great. But I'm not sure that's always the case. Okay, and of course, the anti-immigrant sentiment that's happening worldwide also means that the sharing isn't quite there, and it's also starting to affect a lot of the demographics of many countries. I actually found out that the UK, by the year 2040, if I'm not wrong, someone has to go correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, by the year 2040, white people are not going to be the majority in the UK, and that's pretty scary. It just means that there's just and if you're like me, if you've been to the UK anytime very recently, if you walk around in London especially, it's like quite hard to find white people. They're I'm actually looking around for like actual English people, and there aren't a lot. I'm Asian myself, and I go there and I see a lot of Asian people there, right? So I see more people who look like me than people who look like Amo, right? So the thing is, the reality is, are certain countries changing their demographics? Sometimes because they have to. And does this mean that a lot of culture starts to change? So then you find that some of these Earth era things, they don't sustain. And another thing is that people try to spend resources trying to keep the Earth era status quo. So which means that once people start to see that the familiar world is disappearing, then they freak out. They're like, oh my God, let's spend money, let's spend billions of dollars, let's keep it going. But the problem is the era has passed. So that's a little bit like no one cares about kings and queens, but then you still spend millions of dollars trying to keep the king and the queen there. Then it doesn't make sense. So the examples I have here are more economic ones. So certain factories cannot make it already. Like it doesn't make sense, and every year they are like dying. So some people may say the horse is dead. Stop beating the horse already. The horse will not stand up and move anymore. But no, they will spend billions of dollars to save the factories. And Thailand too, they keep trying to make cars. And especially now that petrol is a problem, when EV is like the next big thing now, and then they try to revive an old school Earth era industry that is never going to make it, and then they spend time, money, and effort to go and keep it going. But besides these examples, let's go back to here. Spending resources trying to keep the Earth status quo. So, for example, let's just say, it's not happening now yet, but let's just say in a few years' time, the universities are in trouble. Because, like I said, education, the kind that's to get a degree, starts to become less and less popular. Because, in case you all didn't realize, all the fresh graduates nowadays cannot find job. So the only reason why you buggers went and got yourself a degree is because you thought if you got a degree, you can find a job, right? So what happens if that is your reason for getting a degree? Then what happens if year after year, the fresh graduates cannot find job? You tell me which idiot is still going to go to university, spend years, spend 5 6 figures, go and get a degree for what? So then if you're not going to get an ROI, who the hell is still going to go to university? So does it make sense, guys? Do you really need to be an astrologer to know that maybe in a few years' time, the universities are going to be in trouble, right? Nobody's going to go. And let's all guess now, okay? What is going to be the outcome? Do we now say that, oh, yeah, it's an air era, so maybe the universities are no longer relevant? Let's just let it die. The horse is dead. But who thinks, you all say in the group chat, who thinks we will now spend millions and potentially billions of dollars trying to keep the university alive, right? Guys, what do y'all think? Right? And also other Earth status quos are certain kind of building projects, for example, which was amazing during the Earth era. And then for whatever reason, the building project just doesn't make sense already. And instead of saying that, okay, now the era has changed, let's not keep building things already. We built too many things and no more space already, right? Let's stop building things already. And then who thinks that we will still spend millions and millions of dollars trying to keep this totally useless construction project continuing? Who thinks yes, say yes, right? Confirm, say confirm, right? So the thing is, rather than we are spending resources actually moving us as quickly as possible into the air era, but then no, we keep like the horse is dead, and then now we double our investment, we triple our investment trying to keep the dead horse going some more. Now you can laugh and say the government sucks or whatever, right? But now I want to put it back to you guys. Remember, I said if some of you here got 6-year-olds and you're still putting money aside to pay for their education, consider you are in this category as well, right? And if right now you are investing yourself in certain types of training, or you are investing yourself to do certain things in particular industries, and your assumption is that in 10 years time, in 15 years time, you're still going to be in this industry as an employee, consider you are also doing this, which means the horse is dead, and you still keep doubling down, and then because you're scared that you lose your job, then you double down and you triple down to try and keep a dead job alive, right? And this is where I want to bring the message to be very sober, because if you do not have a different plan and your plan is that the earth era will continue, it is not clever. It really is not clever. Okay, so next thing is so water trade, food production disrupted. So this happened historically, by the way. That's how the Song dynasty also died. That's how the Roman Empire also died. Because when there's no food, there's no water, and there's no essential supplies, your people will die. Okay, and guys, read the newspaper. Last year when I did the Great Reorder, this thing haven't happened yet. The people who were actually at the Great Reorder, the people who have the recording, don't believe, go and watch again. Towards the last part, okay, y'all say on the group chat, is this true or is me lying? Towards the last part, I warn all of you that from 2026 onwards, then we start to see that supply chains start to get affected. I even said for Singapore, I even put out a graph that shows you how much of our fuel is imported, and I say this is a very fragile thing in Singapore. Who remembers that PowerPoint slide? Say yes on the group chat. Right, I warned you all, right? Did I know that Iran was going to play this punk trick? I don't know. But what I did tell you is that fuel was one of the problems that Singapore is going to face. And who remembered that just last week, PM Lawrence Wong already told you we are going to have an energy crunch? Who saw this, right? So the thing is, when I say that I make a prediction, please don't go and look at my timeline and say, hey, but then May say September, what, the market go up, market go down. Please, guys, you are missing the point. If you are using my predictions to go and make money and exploit this thing, you have missed the point. Because if your entire point is to make money, I think you have lost the plot. Right? What I'm trying to tell you now is that the whole of humanity is going in a different direction. Are you all listening or not? Okay. So the thing is, if essential things like water, you might be thinking, but then water not affected, guys. It is, because the water that you drink worldwide is not water that you open your mouth and then the rain goes into your mouth. It is not. So that means it needs to be treated. There are desalination plants around the world, and that entire treatment needs electricity. Let me repeat, when there's no electricity, there is no water. And do all the Singaporeans remember that water was a very big problem for us historically? Because guess what, Singapore got no water. Everyone clear, right? So water is a very big problem. Okay, trade is a very big problem because you import everything, and now the Suez Canal is pretty much blocked. Yes, I know the ships are still going, it's a matter of time. Okay, and so then the fuel is not coming, fertilizer is not coming. Are we all clear that Singapore produces nothing and we import everything? Everyone clear, right? So the thing is that when it is disrupted, you don't have to be in a war. You don't have to have a climate problem. You just need other people to have war and climate problem. Your supply chain is disrupted. Everyone clear? So the thing here is that when you understand what this is about, then if your first impression today when you came and your intention is to hear some prediction things so you can make money in the crypto market, you have lost the plot, guys. There will come a point where, so what if you have $1 million and you can't even buy a bag of rice? Okay, so guys, get your plot correct. Okay, so these are all real things. I'm not going to bother with that. Okay, so and the problem now is the mindset of the people, that they worship money and all their beliefs are performative. It's all linked to monetary benefits. So then when they go look for a job, first thing they want to know, what is the package. It's like and the thing is, well, that's great as long as you still have your job and your company is still standing, right? So the thing is, now that the supply chain is being affected, and let's put it this way, I don't think any politician is going to tell you that they're going to solve the problem next week. Okay, and the good news is that for the people who live in rich countries, sometimes, am I saying that you're going to get, like, starving poor in a few months' time? Of course not, right? And the thing is, some governments are very good at contingency planning. So if you are looking out for CDC vouchers, don't worry, they will come, confirm, because otherwise people will starve to death. Okay, so but the thing is, can the country do that for a while? Yeah, just so you know, it's not infinite supply, right? Everyone clear? It's not infinite supply. At some point, there will be no CDC vouchers at some point. Okay, and the thing is, and the thing is, you also have to pay attention. Some people only read news from your own country. Go and read news in other people's country. There are people starving already. okay, because the fertilizers are not coming. And like I said, fuel, they are punching each other at the gas station, right? Which tells you that the supply truck is not coming. When the supply truck doesn't come, people will starve, all right? And so don't imagine that you can be enjoying your hot pot dinner when other people are starving, and how long do you think that is going to last, okay? So this is why it's very important to understand what's going to happen. And if you think that your 20-year plan from 10 years ago is still going to work, it's not clever, okay? So one more, last one, okay, is the rigid elitist hierarchical structures will collapse once the chaos ensues. And this historically is what happened. So that means the Song dynasty is a lot like our time. So there are proper agencies, and the people here who are of Chinese descent, you will know this is the dynasty when they all love to go for imperial exam. So if your family got money, the idea is your son better go and study so that he will go and take this exam. And then if he do very well, he will become a magistrate. Then now the whole family will become very rich and very high status, right? So this was the dynasty where this was the most prevalent. So at first it was great because then all the smart people went into running the country, and they were so clever. They made lots and lots of money, and they built lots of beautiful buildings, and they had a great life until the whole thing got super contaminated. And then in the end, it wasn't actually the smartest people who were running the country. They were just people whose father and grandfather were already in the government, you see. So the thing was that, so basically that contamination happens, and it's not just in the government, it happens in companies, it happens in supply chains, where what happens is that the so-called meritocracy doesn't continue as a meritocracy. And it's not just in one or two countries, it happens in every one of those civilizations. Once the Earth era ends, basically this nonsense starts to happen, right? And so which means that the best people are not in the best places, and the best people go to wherever the money is, and of course the whole thing starts to rot from the inside. And it happens in every Earth to air era. Sorry, if you think that you are special, it is not. It's just history repeating itself, right? And so basically when these hierarchical structures start to collapse, now this is, you're going to start to see it happen in the US. That's the first one. I've been talking about it since God knows when, right? And all the institutions in the US, they no longer work already. All you need is one more constitutional crisis. I'm not sure what the Supreme Court is going to do anymore. So, and how the Supreme Court is going to argue that they're even relevant anymore, right? And once the Supreme Court cannot be relevant, then the Constitution gets challenged. Guys, what happens when the Constitution of the US, the leader of the free world, gets challenged? And if they successfully challenge it, guys, tell me what happens to democracy. And tell me, if democracy cannot keep its argument, what's going to happen in some of these more chaotic countries? Maybe not the country you live in, but there are plenty of chaotic countries. What do you think happens, right? So if you think that your 6-year-old is going to NUS in 13 years' time, think again. Not a smart plan, okay? So yeah, okay. So just so you know, I'm not the only one who thinks so. Mark Zuckerberg has bought a underground bunker in Hawaii. He calls it just a little shelter, right? It has 3 houses and a 5,000 square foot bunker with extreme security measures. I think he's not worried about getting out. I think he's worried you try to get in. And Sam Altman said, I try to think not to think about it too much, but I have guns, I have gold, I have potassium iodide, I have antibiotics, batteries, water, gas masks from the Israeli Defense Force, and a big patch of land in Big Sur I can fly to. So Sam Altman is very scared of something. I'm not really sure what, but he's very well prepared for some kind of apocalypse, doomsday scenario, right? And he said that in 2016, by the way, 10 years ago, yeah? So just so you know, the richest people in the world are terrified of you, right? They are terrified that you will come and look for them, right? Just saying, okay? So now what I put on this picture here is that now, as a person who's making plans for the future, there are two very different pictures here. The one on the left, you should continue. If you think May is talking shit and that I'm totally wrong, and that at some point the Israeli, Netanyahu and Trump and whoever is leading the Iranian people right now, they're all going to sit down in a picnic, and then they're all going to kiss and make up in the next 2 to 3 months. Then you can say I'm talking shit lah. Then I will continue saving for my kids' university education. Then continue lah, right? And that's if you think scenario A is going to happen, that the Roman Empire will stand forever, and that somehow that the corruption that's happening in wherever is just going to just continue, and everyone's going to do their job, and there'll be money, and there'll be Sheng Siong supermarket will always have everything that you want. Then you continue plan A. But the thing is, now in the extreme scenario, so let's just say that all the bad things happen, And whatever happened to the Roman Empire in 23 years happens to us in record time. Just saying, right? And then you must plan for the second scenario there, which I stole from the Lord of the Rings. Sorry. Okay, but the point that I'm trying to show you here is that you look at that picture, what I'm trying to portray is that these people, they're not carrying a lot of things. They're carrying essential things only. And then here's another thing that they do in the era, which is they get into communities, groups of people who get together because there is a mission that they are trying to accomplish together. And this mission has a survival theme to it, because the fact is it is survival time. Because if you watch the movie, it's quite sad one. They don't have a lot of resources, so they need to fight for everything they need, right? And this is kind of going to be quite close to what at least the mentality that people need to have in the air era if you are going to thrive. Okay, and this is why I'm basically saying that if your value, just now I asked you all what your value is, and if your value is 100% based on monetary things, if you tell me, May, I'm a valuable person because I own a house in Bukit Timah and then I got 2 other rental properties, I'm like, okay, can you take your properties with you? And another thing I want to remind everybody is that that's assuming that you can claim your property. I'll get to that shortly, right? And maybe you own 5 cases of, like, fine wine, and maybe you have an art collection that includes the Mona Lisa and a bunch of, like, Michelangelos and whatever, right? Provided you can carry it with you, lah. Provided there are people who actually want to buy your friggin' art, lah. Right? Provided that I don't know, that if you have 5 degrees, that hopefully somebody's going to pay you a high salary because you have 5 degrees and 1 master's degree, right? So the thing is, you basically value gets really redefined in the air era. And what scares me is that so many people still value themselves by their portfolio. So many people cannot answer the simple question of what exactly is it you want to do with your life. Because if you can't answer it, I'm not sure how you're going to do scenario 2. Because if you have a lot of money and you have nothing else, then you better hope that scenario 1 continues. It's true, right? So I just give you a thought experiment, guys. I'm not saying this will happen, yeah? I'm not that crazy. But since I'm here to fearmonger today, might as well I just go all the way, right? So thought experiment, just for fun, huh? Okay, so now if all your portfolio becomes 0, and some people say, "Made this impossible." Oh, really? Really? You think it's impossible, right? And that's provided, like, so if your portfolio is made out of uh numbers on a screen that has to be verified by some organization somewhere that has a bunch of guys who wear tie and wear jacket, bunch of old men who sit in some CBD in some New York or London or Singapore or wherever. And if all the 12 people they call the board of directors agree that this thing on your screen says 560,000, then it is worth 560,000. If that 12 old people who sit in that room either all die suddenly or suddenly decide that they don't want to verify your $560,000, or if the company actually collapsed from, like, some complete mismanagement and then nobody can verify that your $560,000 exists, or it's still worth $560,000, but the $560,000 is worth 0. Like, you cannot buy anything with it, right? And then that's how your portfolio can become 0. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that, are you coming to terms with how fragile the whole thing is? Okay, just thought experiment, just for fun. And I'm fear mongering. Okay, now if the institutions cannot allow you to claim your money for whatever reason, happened in history before, where you want to go and claim, you say it's mine, can I take it? Then they say cannot. Happened before, right? Or they will not allow you to claim your money for whatever reason. And if they cannot, sometimes it's because they don't exist. Then if they don't exist, then no one has the key. I don't know how you're going to get your stuff out, right? And also, if your title deed, now the thing about property, okay, so this one I went into history to study this, right? And the thing is, most of the time, people have, like, some kind of house that they live in. And there have been cases where basically the idea of property, if you want to go very, very deep into human history, property is tied to something like a title deed. You own that property if there's some kind of institution that says, oh, our records say that this thing belongs to John Tan, right? Then if you're John Tan, then okay, this property belongs to John Tan. But that's provided that that institution is willing to affirm that John Tan owns this property, or that institution exists to say that John Tan owned this property. Now, if either of those things are not true, then I'm not sure you can claim the property, especially not if, for example, if you live in the US and you say this farmhouse belonged to me, and then Mr. Ruben over there shows up with a big, like, semi-automatic machine gun and he points it at your head and he says, get lost. And I would love to see how you're going to tell Mr. Ruben, hey, but I'm John Tan, I own this farmhouse. But then his semi-automatic, like, machine gun is pointed at your head and your wife's head and your children's head. I'm not sure how you're going to claim that property. So guess what? It no longer belongs to you. Right. And by the way, this is a true story that came from one of the Roman rich men who basically had that happen. He was chased out of his palazzo and his entire family went with him also because now he no longer owns the palazzo. I know I'm deliberately fear mongering here. I'm just basically saying that the Earth era is only has wealth because of the institutions and the agreements and the whatever and all the law and order that goes with it. You remove all of those things, the whole Earth era is gone. Everyone clear, right? Now, if you cannot carry all your possessions with you, like I said, you own all your fine wine and your art and whatever, sure. I mean, if you need to leave, are you going to carry all that shit with you, right? And how confident are you that you are still valuable? If all the following bullet points there are true, how confident are you that you're still valuable? If you have to carry a backpack and go and join a community and you ask them, hey, my name is Wayne, can I join you? And if people ask, well, what can you do? What are you bringing to the table? How are you valuable? And then now you realize that this is not the time to come out with your painting because no one wants your painting. And you can say, oh, I'm a compliance manager. Then they say here we don't need compliance. Then how? If you spend 30 years doing compliance management, I don't know, man. It's useful as long as there are still organizations that you need to comply to. So which is why I really need you all to think very carefully, okay? And that's why this live stream was so important. It's very hard for me to do because I have such bad news to share with everybody, right? But the thing is, you must understand that I've been saying this for years. This is not new, okay? So now I'm going to tell you what's going to happen here, okay? So I'm one person, guys. And I don't have millions and billions of dollars to give to people. I wish I did. And even if I did, maybe the billions not worth much also, lah. Okay, so what I intend to do, like I said, I'm just one person, okay? And I'm going to share two things that people can look at because however many of you are listening to this live stream right now, I mean, whatever I'm saying so far is general. But the thing is, you need to make a plan for yourself. Okay, so there are two things. The first is the mastermind. And some of you already know that I talked about this. It's going to be on the 1st to the 3rd of May. But I think what people need to see is what's going to happen at this mastermind, okay, and why I design it this way. Now, on day one, I call it vision because I've done my calculations for the next 5 years. So far, even up to my great reorder, I only covered until 2026 and a bit of 2027. But in fact, what I want to cover this is the prediction part. But I'm not doing it because I want people to follow predictions. I told you it doesn't make sense to just follow predictions if you're not going to take action. How many of you followed me for years up to now still never take action, right? So it's not the prediction that is going to change your life. But the thing is, I look at the next 5 years at some of the critical areas in the world, and from there I'm able to extrapolate how the economic, social, and political landscape is going to transform. Because if I can tell you what some of these mover and shaker countries are going to go through, then we can actually build a good picture of what is going to happen in the world, what is likely to sustain itself, and what is going to completely collapse. Because if we cannot see what is the landscape coming out in the next 5 years, and guys, it will not be anything like the last 20 years. Ever since COVID until now, whose life has completely transformed? Say on the group chat, if it completely transformed, please say so. And whatever plans you had before that, you actually throw out of the window and you have to make a new plan, right? So the thing is, who thinks the next 5 years is going to be more peaceful than the last 5 years? Don't make sense, right? So which means that you need to get a sense. And I'm not saying that I confirm will be correct. I'm trying my best. So based on what I see on the planets, I can give you a good idea and as intelligent a guess as I can to show you the picture of what I think is going to happen. And then that becomes a basis for you to make your plans. That makes sense. And also to be absolutely clear which are the Earth era teams that will be destroyed and eliminated within the next 5 years. Because unlike the last 5 years where it was very mild, everyone thought COVID will change the world. It kind of didn't, right? But the thing is now, these things that are happening in the world right now is a completely different thing. Is now that I showed you all my maximum fear mongering already, Is it really crazy that some countries will give up democracy? Tell me, is it really crazy? A lot of countries are up for election in 2027, 2028, and 2029. Now, in the face of all these supply chain issues where people in some poor countries are actually starving, what do you think is going to happen in elections? Don't think it is so crazy that this whole thing can just come down, right? And it means that if certain essential supplies in the world are simply not available and certain production comes to a complete stop, it can mean that certain goods and services are simply not available in the world, which means anybody in those industries, you are insane if you think that you're going to continue keeping your job when there is no production and when production is not possible or extremely expensive. You really think you're going to keep your job? Right, so that's where you need to think about what earth era teams cannot, it's not possible that it will continue. So which means if you basically day one is about destruction, I want you to look at your plan and start to take a red pen and start to minus out some of your plans already, which means don't waste time already. You know it's not going to work. Why are you wasting your time? Now we destroy those plans because the next phase of the air era is a different story. Now, day two is about value. Now we focus it on you. So the way we do it is macro to micro. So when you know what's happening in the world, the next question is now we look at what is static, which is this thing that doesn't change, and that thing is you. Whatever is in your birth chart. If you are good at talking like me, then you talk, right? If you are very good at like sweeping floor, then be the damn best floor sweeper, right? If you are good at cooking, cook. And maybe you have to find more creative ways to cook when certain things are not available. You know what I'm saying? So basically, you want to know what is your natural value. If you have to take a backpack and you have to join a community and they ask you what can you do, you better have an answer for them, right? So what is your natural value with no money? Not saying that you are completely broke, but what if the institutions that hold up certain types of value is no longer there? With no education, not because your degree disappeared, but because no one cares about your degree anymore. Your assets may not count for anything. What else is underneath? Who is that person that is there? Because your chart doesn't tell me how much money you have. Your chart tells me what your strengths are. Okay, who is your natural audience? If you are going to serve people, because does exchange end? It doesn't. That means trading means you have 4 potato, I have 2 t-shirt. If you want t-shirt and I want potato, we can trade, we can exchange, we have value to each other even if we have no money. Everyone clear? So the thing is, you must know who is your natural audience. If you cut hair, are you cutting for random people? And that day I just had a client who, it turns out she has a desire to cut hair for people who are special needs. Because unlike you, the special needs person, certain types of special needs person, they will not sit quietly and let you cut their hair. So which means rather, apart from cutting hair, you need to have more skill set, like compassion, like patience, like the ability to deal with people who are freaked out. So if that is your natural audience, you are of value to certain communities. You understand, guys? So the thing is, all these things have nothing to do with your education and your money. I don't care about all those things. Who is that person underneath? And also, what is your fundamental social role? Are you there to calm people down? Are you there to provide sustenance? Are you there to share your knowledge? Are you there to make sure that things are fixed when they break down? So what role do you play in society? I don't know. I don't care what your job title is because you don't have a job anymore. What do you actually do in society? Because if you cannot answer this question, then we have to answer an even more scary thing, which is that are we looking at useless people? You all understand what I'm talking about or not? Okay, so the third one is vocation, because I'm asking people to combine what is happening in the air era with your strength. So this is the action plan. So you put it together and then you look at, okay, let's be objective here. What will rise in the air era? And then the next question is, you want to participate or not? Right? Or you want to sit around and cry that, like your job is gone, right? As if you love your job that much, right? So what are the plans that you need to make now? Right? Because like basically, am I saying that all these house of cards going to fall down immediately? Maybe not. Maybe it could be like the Roman Empire, right? Just that it won't take 23 years. Like it might take a few years. If I were you, I start planning now. You don't wait until the thing happen already. Then now people want potato, you got no potato, what are you going to do? Right? So what communities do you need to be part of now? Because most employees I know, and this is what I tested with all my students and my clients who are employees. If you're an employee, I bet with you, all your friends, all your community around you, they're all employees. Because why? Employees hang out with employees. Self-employed people hang out with self-employed people. So the thing is, if you're an employee and all the people you know are all employees and they will all be lost if they all lost their jobs at the same time, guys, you need to reconsider what community you need to be part of now, right? And the thing is, you don't wait until you need people, then you go and make friends. Huh? Does it make sense? You don't wait until you need people, then you go and make friends. I rather you make friends now. And if you're going to make friends now, you better be useful now. Am I making sense? So if you want to wait until later and there's no more Air Era Mastermind to go and look at this, you can be my guest. But I really want people to do this now. Okay. And how to make the best use of whatever resources you have now. Your money is still worth money now. Your time is still worth time now, and your energy is still worth something. How do you want to best use it? If you want to spend the next few weekends sitting at home watching Netflix, be my guest, right? And give your money to Netflix some more, right? Or would you like to think about what that plan is? And if you need to pick up some skills, you need to make some new friends, and you need to start building something that you can offer eventually, right? All the people who are listening now who basically write beautiful emails to me say, May, I'm such a huge fan, follow your prediction webinar for how many years now? I'm still thinking about like what side hustle I'm going to do. Maybe I will make a transition in 2 to 3 years. I'm like, yeah, I mean, if your world is still standing in 2 to 3 years, good luck to you, right? So look at what's happening in the world right now. Read the newspapers, guys. You still think in 3 years' time you got the luxury to wait 2 to 3 years to slowly transition into your side hustle? That's why I call this an urgent live stream, right? I say until I know no saliva already. Okay, so the second one is a personal consultation. Now there is a huge difference between the two. And why is it that since I can do personal consultation, why do I talk about the mastermind? And I will go deeper into what are the differences here. But let me show you what happens in a personal consultation, okay? So this happens over 3 hours. I will prepare your chart. Nothing is AI. I do all of it manually because I look through everything myself. And I actually produce a report that looks something like this. I hope you all can see my screen. Okay, but so the report actually looks like okay. I just realized you all cannot see. Hold on. Let me see whether I can do this or not. Okay, maybe cannot. Okay, so never mind. So let me just go back to my screen share. Okay, yeah. So anyway, I tried to show you the report, but okay, I don't know how to do this, so I better learn. Okay, but the thing is, I prepare a report for you that includes a career profile, a psychological profile, and I also do a 2 year timeline for you. So whatever forecast that you see me do for all these countries, I can do it for an individual as well. Now I'm aware I've been an astrologer for 20 years. Okay, so I know to a lot of people, between the two, always personal consultation is more attractive one, right? And because why? In the Earth era, people want private, they want personal. And the thing is, you want to get your fears dealt with, right? And sometimes people also tell me, May, it's not the price of what you're charging. It's like, wow, your mastermind 3 days, and then your personal consult 3 hours. Okay, I think I got time to spend for 3 hours. So actually, I found that the people are actually not so worried about their money. They're actually worried about their time, because then the 3 hours might require you to take leave from a job that you don't really like, right? And 3 days to plan for what's going to happen in the air era is too much for some people, right? And so now the personal consultation, does it mean that it's not good? It is great if you are already doing something. Okay, so let me repeat. A personal consultation is fantastic if you already run a business. Already means not planning, not maybe someday, one day. And if you already are embarking onto something, maybe you haven't started, but your plan is clear. You know what you want to do, or there are specific challenges that you are facing within a specific time frame that you are here to see me personally about. That means it genuinely is a personal consultation about a specific thing. Now, what I don't recommend a personal consultation for, now you can still come and see me, but I tell you, I'm just being really honest with you, is that if you come and you are lost, you have no idea what you want to do. It means the question is like you have no idea exactly what you want to do with your life, right? And you are a lost sheep. And then you come and then you tell me, May, I'm here with an open mind. And I always say that an open mind is an empty mind. It means that you have no idea. And then what you're doing when you sign up for a personal consultation is to follow a leader, and you're hoping that I will tell you what to do. Right? And this is not how this works. And anyone here who is my student or my client, and guys, if you are my student or my client, can you help me with this, please? go on the group chat and tell them that the chart does not tell you that, oh, your job is to be a carpenter that makes chairs and tables. Like the chart doesn't say this one. But if you are a carpenter who makes chairs and tables, it actually tells you who your audience is and what specifically is the type of chairs and tables that you might want to narrow down to. But it does not tell you that you will make chairs and tables as a carpenter, right? So the thing is, if you have zero idea what you want to do, I strongly recommend you do the mastermind instead, because then it allows you to build something. Because a personal consultation means that you need to come with specific things to come and consult me about. It's like seeing doctor. So you need to come with the challenges that you're already facing for something that already exists. If you have no plan, do the mastermind. Okay. So let me be very clear. What's the difference here? So I mentioned the mastermind is 3 days. So you want to commit, you gotta spend 3 days with me. I already tell you what those 3 days are for. Okay. And also the consultation is 3 hours. And that's the time that you spend with me. So the mastermind gets you to think long term. We are not thinking about immediately. We are not looking at what September, buy what thing, sell what thing. We are not doing that kind of thing. I'm looking at 5 years and beyond, because I need you to see where the world is going and we understand macro first. The consultation is short term. I always do an 18 months deep dive. So I'm looking 18 months in the future. So is this useful? Yes, if you're a business owner and you need to know when your supply chain is going to get affected. And if there's going to be some kind of retrenchment exercise, how are you going to navigate that? And what do you need to change in your business to retarget, to repivot? Now, this one is very important. Now, does that mean that if you're an employee, then you cannot come and see me? Of course you can. Like if you want to come and ask me, May, can you see when I will lose my job? And the thing is, if you are, and if the chart shows me on this date, I see a cut here, it tells me that you are kind of unemployed from that date, then I will tell you that you will be unemployed on that date. But the difference between a business owner and an employee is that then if you're an employee, your heart will sink. And you might go like, really? I'll lose my job on this day. Then I said, I'm usually correct. Then that date will come and go and you realize that May is usually correct. And then you will lose your job. And then question mark, right? So, but as a business owner, one of the things that is different is that you have this important thing. Please write down this word. The word is called agency. That means you decide. If this business doesn't work, cannot do, beyond a certain date, it doesn't work, I can tell you the business owner has at least 10 to 15 things that he can do right now to change his business. He can change his market. He can change his price. He can change the way he package it. He can turn a $1,000 thing into a $100 thing and cut it into small pieces so it's easier to sell. Business owners can do 15, 20, 30 things that can change their life immediately. The employee, if it's a retrenchment question you have, you're basically asking me, I wait until when to get my letter. There is no agency here. So if you want to go and get a consultation, consider if you're an employee, you can still come and look for me if you have a plan. If you have an idea in your head, is quite clear already, you don't want to do the mastermind, you can come and look for me in consultation, right? But don't come to me with an empty mind, okay? And the good thing about mastermind is that I'm hoping that you're going to come and interact with the community. Come here and be open-minded. Hear what other people's ideas are. And that means that I also want people to find ways to work with each other, because it's very hard to go and convince your friends and family that this crazy bitch, right, who's telling you that the whole world is going to like collapse in that sense. Very hard to convince your friends. But I tell you, when you're in a mastermind, no need to convince them. They all listen to me for very long already, right? So the thing is, then it is easier to find people who already understand what is going on, and then you find ways to work with each other, right? Easier that way. And now, consultation, unfortunately, I think I'm a great conversationalist, but you only get to talk to me only, right? So you don't get to hang out with other people. You don't get to meet collaborators. Okay, just clear. So in the mastermind, you are going to get a personal profile with the career profile and things like that. So this will help you to do your building. Now in the consultation, you get the personal profile and you get a 2-year, the 18-month timeline, okay? And the mastermind, slightly different. We start with the macro era view first. We see where the world is going. So it's outer, and then we bring it to the inner, which is that what are you going to do about it? Then with the consultation is very different. We start with the micro first. And if I'm being really honest, when people come for consultation, your questions are not air era questions. Your questions are all earth era questions. You want to know about your salary, your income, whether your house is going to be safe. Should I move house? Should I sell my property? it's all Earth era questions. Trust me, I do 20 years already, I know, right? And usually the direction is different. It starts with inner first. You want to deal with all your inner issues first. And then people ask me the magic question: how do I turn all of this into air era? Right? And then that's when now we go and talk about, if you have all these skills and all these resources, here's how you are going to bring it out into the macro to start offering it to people. Right? So basically, this is basically both are inner and outer. It's just that I do it in a totally different way. All right. So, and also basically how to get high ROI for both of these is that you come with clear intention to have a plan, and that internally you have accepted that the world is going to be a very, very different place, and there's a very good chance that at least half of whatever is your long-term plan better throw out already, because it's not going to work, right? Because the world is not the same. It's not that you're lousy, it's not that people lie to you, it's the fact that they want to be honest with you, but they don't have the data to tell you, because their data doesn't go back 2000 years, right? And so, which means that how to get high ROI is basically come with the right intention, that you are ready to make a plan, and don't just come and go home with a lot of notes. Okay, the reason why I do all this effort to get people to listen to me is because I really want people to make a plan. I'm not sure that the people that you depend on to look after you are going to look after you. There are no pension plans. Your company can fire you with an email, and don't be so sure that the people upstairs are going to look after you necessarily when the CDC vouchers not enough already. Okay, so the thing is, you cannot depend on the people that you normally depend, so you have to depend on yourself, right? Which means you better have a damn good plan. All right, so these two are very different. Are there people who do both? Yes, I already have people who have signed up for both. Okay, so if you want to do both, be my guest, right? But if you had to choose one, now I put everything out here for you. You decide what works better for you. Okay, so this is my last slide already. Right, so you can go and compare and contrast what these two different things are. So I got QR codes here, and let me tell you what they are for. So the mastermind, here are the details, is from 1st to the 3rd of May. Anybody here who's an employee, most likely you need to take at least 1 day leave. And it runs from 9:30 to 5:30. Please commit to the whole day. Not all of it is listening to me. Most of it, there's going to be a lot of hands-on, and there's a lot of opportunity to interact and to hang out with people also. So please come with that mindset. My program fee is 1697. Now for my Salstro clients and students, so I have been doing this for like a number of weeks now. So if you are my client or my student, you may have already had a discount code that you have gotten from WhatsApping Jeremy, so everybody knows. So if you still have your discount code, please note that it will expire on 17th of April, which is this Friday. So today is already Tuesday. So you have another 3, maybe 4 days to use your discount code, after which it will be 1697. Just saying. Right. So if you want to do the mastermind, what you can do is you can scan the QR code. It will take you to a WhatsApp chat, and then you can basically get the sign up registration from Jeremy. You can also, if there are any questions, just ask him. Okay. So here you're not talking to an AI bot. Okay. It's like if you talk to us on the WhatsApp number, it is either May or Jeremy who is replying to you, not an AI bot. Okay, then the consultation is like, if you want to do that, then yes, you can scan this QR code, and it will take you to our WhatsApp chat, and then please let Jeremy know that you want to do the timeline consultation, and then he will advise you on the time slots. Okay, so my time slots are booking up quickly, and especially for this month. First of all, I'm already quite booked this month. Plus, because my mastermind is happening on 1st to 3rd, so I have a lot of preparation to do. I need to prepare profiles for all these people, which means if you are lucky, you can still get a slot in April. Otherwise, it's going to be second half of May already. Okay, so this is as the way my calendar stands right now. If you want to get an early slot, just go and text Jeremy now. Okay, yeah. So anyway, that's my last slide. And wow, I see a lot of comments. Oh my god. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so I can see some questions here. I mean, it's 9:37, and I was planning to talk to you about 10, so it's like I have a bit of time. So I can take some questions. I'm just going to randomly take. Okay, I think there's too many here for me to look at. So some people said, many developed countries birth rates are going down. What will happen next? I mean, first of all, the birth rate thing is a guaranteed thing already, because demographics are one of the easiest sciences, because you can tell what's going to happen at least 20 years in advance, right? So basically, you look at like maybe 5 years ago, the birth rate. then you plus 20 years lor. So basically that's what's going to happen when they are 25 years old lah. So you already know how many old people are going to be there, because in 20 years time you and me, we're going to be quite old people, right? And then who are the 25-year-olds who will be around to do useful things? You can count on, it's not magic, right? So basically the demographics is a huge problem. But at the same time, the good news is then they are very motivated to accelerate the automation lah. So that is one nice thing lah. The other thing also is that what I honestly think is that if you are like me and you're not like spring chicken, which means in 20 years time you are going to be an old person, my strong suggestion is that if you have a plan long term for the air era, understand that independence is one of the key tenets of the air era. So the thing is, that's why I say if your plan is to be dependent on something that an institution has to uphold, you are not very clever already. You're at this stage, not a smart plan, right? So it means that there must be some form of independence that we are setting up. And this kind of independence does not mean that you will stand by yourself. That's another thing in the Earth era. Everyone is like you have to take care of yourself, buy your own property, buy your own insurance and whatever. I think that in the air era, that's why community is very important. And that's why you want to be part of a community. And I strongly suggest you find ways to make yourself useful to a community now, so that you don't wait until you're 78 years old and then you cannot walk and you expect people to come and look after you. It don't make sense, right? If you're 45 years old, right now, I strongly suggest you start contributing to a community, so that you're paying it forward. While you have resources, please do that. So you don't go and tap on people, like expect people to look after you when you're 78, Yep. Okay, so yeah, so some people are saying things like government supply excess eggs. Then I'm like, okay lor, so that's provided they still got eggs lah, right? And provided you still have a government lah, right? And also yeah, so a lot of comments here about domino effect of chaos. Yes, of course. It's like, and there are lots of people who will capitalize on it, and not everybody's agenda is a good one. Okay, and most people value themselves by their titles and company, whatever on their name cards. Yeah, absolutely. And you know how in the country where I'm from, you know how when you go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves, they will tell you, "Oh, my name is Matilda. I'm the director of blah blah blah, whatever." It's like besides the rank and the designation, it's like, is there anything else underneath? It's quite scary about how, imagine if all of us lost our jobs right now. It's almost like it's hard for you to actually tell people who you are and what contribution you make to society. And if a lot of people cannot answer that question, it makes me very worried, right? Because when this thing happens, it's not one or two people, it's a whole wave of it. Okay, so some people said something about something that won't happen to Singapore. I'm not really sure what that about. Yeah, so people are saying politicians will always tell you that their country is in good hands. I think that applies to every country lah. I mean, for sometimes make sense reasons. Okay, world best for sweeper. That sounds kind of sad. I don't know. I think Iran need a lot of minesweepers now. And how can we exchange value what we are living in the world dictated by people that sets to zero? What's the point? Seems contradictory. Yeah, that's provided if your definition of value is the old earth era value, right? So which means that that's why I'm asking people to rethink this idea of value. Because so many of us are like, you know how when you say some jobs are like low value jobs, and we all know what low value jobs is, isn't it? Low value job means the salary is very low lah, right? Until you realize that when the sweeper didn't show up for work for two weeks, like last year, was it last year or the year before? Which if I'm not wrong, I'm not sure if I got the town correct, but I think it was the town of Birmingham in the UK, where there was a strike. So basically, all the rubbish collectors decided not to collect the rubbish, and basically the entire town was just full of rubbish. It was quite crazy. Like people were just piling up rubbish bags and stuff, and the whole town was stinking like nobody's business. And you know how it's so easy to say that the rubbish collector is a low value job until they stop showing up. Then let's see you go and clear your own rubbish. You know what I'm saying? And it's and I think this idea of low value, they only say that because the person gets paid very little, which is in the first place, ironically, is the reason why they are striking, is because the town doesn't pay them enough money to look after their families. So, well, Tam guy, right? No wonder they don't want to clear your rubbish anymore, because you don't even pay people a dignified wage, isn't it? And you know how when people say, "Oh, this is a high value man," so all the ladies know when you say somebody is a high value man, like you're not talking about his virtuous personality, right? You're talking about how much money he makes, right? Isn't that sad? That like if you're a man and you want to be high value, it's all about how much money you make, and and what I'm trying to show everybody here is that isn't that sad? Like who's sad? Are you not sad? It's like, and to me, actually, a high value man, but be somebody who actually can build a house in the wilderness, who actually can take a few pieces of wood apart and actually build a damn house out of it. And that to me is a high value man. It's like, and he might just be a carpenter, but you'll be quite glad you have a carpenter in your community when you need to build a house. I'm not really sure Elon Musk is that useful with all his billions of dollars when you need to build a house very quickly out there. Okay, so anyway, so guys, it's been really really fun. I wish I can take more questions, but I think let's end the video off here, okay? But what's important is I hope everyone gets the gist of what I'm trying to tell you. I don't do these things, and in case you all didn't realize, didn't charge you a cent for being here. And quite a lot of my webinars and a lot of things that I don't really charge people. Yes, do I charge people for mastermind and consultation? Yes, lah. I mean, I do this for a living, right? But the thing is, a lot of things I do for the public, I don't charge. And the things that I tell you, I don't really have an agenda for it. I've been saying the same thing for 5, 6 years now. And you know how a lot of these economists, they keep changing their forecasts. Politician also, one moment say this, then another moment, next quarter change story already, right? And some of you have followed me for a very long time. Has May changed her story? Have I even changed it even once? That timeline that I keep showing you, is it the same timeline? It's the same one, right? And so the thing is, I have not changed my story. All my free webinars, not all of them are free, but the ones that are free, they're on YouTube. I have never removed them, right? And the thing is, and every one of those old webinars, I've done something like 13 or 14 of them. I did 13 free webinars, guys. And every time I speak for hours. Some of them were like 6 hours, okay? And I have everything is there with the timestamp, which means I cannot lie to you. If I said that I said something in 2024, you can go and watch it. It's there one, right? And if you want to, you put it through an AI thing, you can transcribe the thing and you will see if I said something, I would have said it, right? And unlike people who keep changing their forecast, who sometimes when they say wrong, then they scrub it off the internet. I tell you, May doesn't do that. All my webinars are still there, all 13 of them, right? And so the thing is, you need to decide who is telling you the truth. And I'm not just saying that to say that I'm better than all these people. I'm saying this because I know what I'm saying sounds totally insane. I know it sounds totally insane. I know what all these other people are telling you sounds a bit more like normal, right? But I'm also telling you their data is very short. They are telling you what happened in the last 20 years, and now it's not the last 20 years, now it's the air era. So you cannot use the last 20 years data, it doesn't work. And also, a lot of these guys, they have agendas for telling you what they are telling you. So I also cannot say that, oh, May is better or May is definitely more correct than the other people. What I can tell you is that I get very worried when I read the news because I know a lot of people are reading what these people are saying, and it doesn't give most people an accurate picture of what is actually happening in the world. And it means that many people are just riding the MRT, they're just going to the food court to order their dinner, and it doesn't occur to them that you cannot just keep doing this, and you must make a plan right now because nobody is coming to look after you. And which is why I need more people to understand this. If you can do that without the mastermind and the consultation, by all means, which is why I do this stuff free. I also cannot see every single person in consultation. And what I need to see is that the average Singaporean, at least in the country that I come from, and some of you are from Malaysia, Indonesia, or China, or wherever it is that you're coming in from, please, by all means, do what you need to do to make sure that you have a plan for yourself and your loved ones. But don't imagine that your old style Earth era plan is going to work. And I know you don't want to hear this, but somebody gotta tell you, because I can tell you the people on the first slide, the economists and all the career coaches and all the tech people, they are not telling you the truth, right? And decide whether you want to hear it from an astrologer lady who has no agenda for telling you what I'm telling you. Okay, guys, so I'm going to end off my live stream now. And so guys, go and do something, right? If you need my help, sign up for one of these things, right? The QR code goes to a WhatsApp chat. So you go there, you got questions, you just ask questions first. Ask until you show ready, then you want to sign up. It's up to you, right? But if I can help, let me help. If you don't need my help and you are ready, you want to gather your community, go and build something that you know is going to be a worthy side hustle, then by all means, go and do that. Okay, so guys, have a good evening. I'll see you guys next time. Okay, bye.